Light them up.
All right, here we go. It is Saber time.
Yo, yo.
Saberification systems are go. We're all Jedi colors today.
Yes.
We all went blue. How about that?
We didn't even plan that out. You see that?
Harris, yours looks green to me, but maybe that's like a sky blue.
It's aqua. It's actually like an aqua blue is what I'm using right now.
Harris, you know what saber this is right here?
The one you're holding?
Yeah.
Is that the Graflex we were working on?
Yeah, it's from my friend.
Buddy?
It's from my friend Chris.
Awesome.
Almac, if you watch this, this is your lightsaber. This is, you know, it's like a cross between, I kind of realized today that this was like, it was like I put the ESB clamp card, but you know what? It's actually, it doesn't have those ESB rivets. But
oh, yeah,
I don't.
It's got the New Hope rivets. The New
right.
Hope.
Like I don't care. I think it's sweet that you put the this whole button setup right here.
Oh yeah, you like that?
I just
you
love
can do that under the bubble too. That'll work under the bubble card as well.
That's true, because we didn't glue this in or anything. You just switch it out for the bubble. But I just love the way
one or the other.
Like I actually asked Chris, I said, "What do you want on here?" And he goes, "I just like whatever you want me to to put on there." So I love the ESB look, and I love that button setup. Where like to me, it looks like the way that they operated in the movie. I know that in the newer movies they hit up here, but to me, like back in the day, I felt like if they hit anything, they hit this or something near it, right?
I think in the movie on one or two scenes, like in ESP, he would slide his thumb up and down.
Okay.
Like as if you're sliding your thumb up or down each one of those little lines that go across on the card, and that like do that's the activation and do.
Our buddy Armando is here. What's up, fellas? What's going on, Armando? Tim McAndrews here. What's going on, Tim?
What's up, Timmy? Hey,
Tim
buddy.
sent me his Profi board for his lightsaber recently. Armando's been on Saber Talk before, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Harris, are you working on anything like at home?
Actually, I'm not, because lately I've been spending a lot of time at your place, so I don't really even have anything on my bench right now. The only thing, and to be honest with you, with the COVID stuff, I'm still working. My job is still, I'm going. I'm considered an essential employee, which is cool. But I haven't really actually done anything saber-wise. I've been playing around with the idea of cutting out. I was thinking about cutting some of those openings on the shroud right here, but I haven't had the nerve to cut it yet. Just been playing with it back and forth with the idea,
Yeah.
And you and I have been doing so much, we've been working over. I've been doing all my work at your place.
Yeah, and a lot of the last times you came over, you brought a lot of your Saber stuff over here.
Yeah, I brought a few projects over there and dropped off.
And we were getting going. We were actually like really making headway on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like with this one, I had to finish.
Hit.
Yeah, like with this one, I had to finish. I think after you left, I just had to do a couple things to it, right? I finished the blade up and I packed it in and whatever I did.
And everything's locked into that top section, so you don't want to unscrew the top section. Only lift the clamp card, unscrew the bottom half, and then you can see the insides of it, right?
Yeah. Did you know I had to redo this? I had to rebuild this top to bottom 3 times.
I knew you took it apart and then redid it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was.
What happened?
Awful
Did any wires break?
No, it wasn't. It was just like a matter of at one point, the emitter wasn't operating properly because something was like, I think there was like a metal piece, like it's like a metal piece of dust or like a shard of metal somehow was like crossing over 2 pads. It was ridiculous that I had to go take the entire thing apart to find that issue.
Crazy.
And I ended up just like rewiring that and then put it all back together again, and then had another issue. And you know how much of a pain it was to deal with the button section, to have to like
to get the wires routed.
Yeah. And I realized that the whole chassis section was like, it became loose somehow, even though the screw, there was 2 screws that we put in from 2 sides.
One on each side, right?
And one of those screws was like nearly a 1/2 inch long. Like I can't believe that there would be any looseness in there. There was like a 1/4 inch screw on one side and a 1/2 inch screw on the other side. Like we had the room, we put a really long screw through the metal loose. And the plastic. Somehow it became loose. So I took the entire thing apart and redid that screw hole in there, and now like everything's very solid. Because you know what was happening when it was like it had a little bit of movement in there? Totally the worst thing for a Saber, because like it was it would like short, I guess, because like something would kind of move.
Did it move?
Yeah, something would kind of move, and I was like, "What is going on with this?" I couldn't believe it, and realized that it has a little movement there. It should not have any movement at all. I got to go in and redo the entire thing from top to bottom just to make sure it doesn't move anymore. But yeah, now it's like totally good.
All right.
Totally good.
It's a nice little design. I'm sure your buddy's gonna love it.
Yeah, I think so.
It's an awesome hilt, man. It's an awesome hilt.
The Parks Graflex all done up with the Crystal Focus 10.
Yeah, beautiful. Anything with the Crystal Focus 10 is good in my opinion.
All right.
Yeah.
Right, Gabe, I see I put a smile on your face with that one, Gabe.
Yeah, CFX, baby.
Yeah, man. The best. It's like the top of the line dragster racehorse you could ever want engine, you know?
Right.
It's badass.
What's your
CFX.
favorite new font that you're playing with, Gabe? You got a favorite one, right?
Dude, I'm up to like 43 or 44 fonts.
Oh, man. Let me ask you, Gabe. I've heard that the more fonts you put on it, the longer it takes to boot up. Are you finding that?
No, I actually, on the CFX Facebook page, I saw a comment the other day where someone posted a question as to how many you can fit in the soundboard. Obviously, it's all based off the card, the memory card.
How big the card is, correct. If the card's bigger, you can put more.
So someone said that. Someone says, well, it all depends what card you have. I'm up to 128 right now, he says. I said, holy crap, I only got 43. I personally haven't had any glitches yet. Like that, but maybe when you get up in numbers like that guy, over 100 or something, maybe. But
yeah, I've heard it's not a glitch. The more you put on, the longer it takes to boot up.
Yeah,
because I believe what it does is when you boot it up, it scans the file for the correct sound fonts and then locks onto that file.
Oh, I see.
So it takes, the more you have, the longer it takes to search the file for those sound fonts when you boot it up.
Yeah. Yeah, right now.
That's cool.
K-Sith is Ray Skywalker sound font. That thing is the best sound font I have heard. Graflex sound font that I've heard till now, of all the Graflex fonts I have.
What's it called again? Ray what?
Yeah, it's just called. He does a 2-for-1 package. K-Sith. When you download the episode 9 package, he gives you the Ben Solo and the Ray. But Ray's Graflex, not the yellow one at
Ray's Graflex. I thought you said Ray Skywalker. That's what I heard at first.
Yeah, the Ray Skywalker, whatever she calls herself.
It's a Ray font.
Yeah.
Sword of the Jedi. What's going on? Clinton is here.
Hold on.
Ray Skywalker.
See, she says Ray Skywalker on here. So, see, there's Leia.
Ray Skywalker.
Ray Skywalker.
Be with me.
Sounds great on here.
But this font, I don't know how K-Sith did it, but it's something about not just the hum, but the accent swings on this thing that are like timed so smooth and so perfectly. It's not even funny. It takes it to a whole nother level. And I have like a ton of Graflex fonts on this particular hilt, but that one sound font is, out of all of them, he really knocked it out of the park with that. I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Let's see like a close up of that hilt, because you updated it, right? You want to show it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean,
put it right up to the mic too. It sounds great.
it ain't top of the line stuff. I wanted to add some, accent colors and stuff. I'm gonna do the pommel too, with a bit of gold to match. I literally just did this myself. I went to Lowe's, bought some, spray paint, some clear coat finish, and just did it myself. And
you actually put like the clear coat on it?
Yeah, I sprayed the clear coat on it myself after the paint was dry.
Nice.
I still got to finish sanding in here because there's some scuffs in here. And then I talked to Martin today. I'm gonna have him powder coat the pommel tomorrow. I'm gonna drop it off to him.
Nice. You're personalizing it. You're making your own.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give it a little bit of character. You know how it is.
Love
I want to make it my own, not just another Ascend.
Love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. I'm really happy with it. I did have this gold. I remember I sent you guys pictures. This black ring here was also gold, but what happened was that's where I grab a lot to spin where the choke is, and I guess touching ended up peeling the paint, so I just took it off. And up here I don't touch anything, so it's fine.
The spray doesn't adhere as good as like a powder coating. A powder coating paints like a car, like you can touch it all the time, and
if I had the
paint won't come off.
If I had the knowledge and experience and know-how of gutting this whole thing and having it powder coated completely how I want, I would have done it. But it's just a lot of work for me, and I just wanted little accent stuff, and I don't feel like going through all the trouble gutting this thing to get all this stuff powder coated for just little minor parts. So I just figured I'd do it myself.
Good for you. Enjoy it, man. Make it your own, bro.
Yeah, it does the job for now. Yeah, I'm
Love
happy.
that. Yeah,
but the pommel, obviously, the pommel's easy. It just screws right off. It's just the one piece. I'll have that powder coated tomorrow. I might even add some blue. You know me with the blue. I'm thinking of adding some blue rings in here somewhere, 1 or 2, just as accent, and then on the pommel. So I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it, but I'll see tomorrow.
Hail Bill, we got Chinese Bill here.
What's up?
Billy's here. What's up, Billy?
What's going on, Billy?
So my brothers. Hey,
What's going on? How are you?
On there. I'm great.
Can you guys hear him? I don't hear him.
Yeah. I think we got some kind of delay with Bill.
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's like far away, right?
I hear some kind of delay.
Did I take off the?
I don't hear Bill at all.
Maybe use headphones.
Yeah, I'll take my.
I have headphones on.
I'll take.
Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Oh yeah, there we go. Sometimes it's better with headphones, and sometimes it's not better.
How about now?
I don't hear Bill at all.
Bill, say a couple things so Harris can test it out.
I can't hear anybody. Everyone can see and hear me, right?
Yeah,
I could hear you. Harris, can you hear Bill?
Say something. No, say something, Bill.
Uh,
I got no bill. I got no bills. Nothing comes in the mail. No, I'm kidding. I don't hear Billy at all.
I think something might be delayed with him.
Here, I'm gonna come back.
Okay.
Right. Sword of the Jedi says waiting on the flame and Leia Hill. I'm actually waiting for Leia Hill myself. My wife wants Leia's Hill.
I'm waiting on a flame too.
Yeah, and you're waiting
I'm
for the
on
flame.
my flame too. I hope it comes before I die. That's what I keep telling everybody. I'm getting old, man. I don't know how much longer I got. Please send the flame to me. I want to hold it before I kick.
You told me you had at least 10 years left. I got to take you up on those 10 years.
Yeah, well, we try. COVID's messing us up a little bit, but this is cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say this whole quarantine stuff was screwing everything up on top of that, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm bummed. I wanted to say hi to Bill. I can't.
Let me see if he's come back in here.
Man.
Let's see how it is now.
My buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, now I hear you. I
Okay.
think. Say something.
All right.
I got you, Billy.
All right. Sweet. How's my brothers?
Good, brother.
You get the afro
you
there?
there?
Jedi
Yeah.
Huh? It's the COVID afro. I'm getting my my 90s.
Who's you, Billy?
COVID after.
90s bowl cut. Let me go get my saber.
Gabe, are you using your enhanced blue or are you using your
White right now.
I got the enhanced blue in this one. I really like it.
Can you grab that one? Hold on.
But this one, like, I'm gonna sand it some more. Like you guys can't tell, but the blade is like, it's still kind of rough with the sanding that I did, so I want to like maybe smooth it out a little bit.
That's all blue now.
Oh, nice. There you go.
How's the crystal look on camera?
That looks good. That looks good. I like how it's lit from the top and the bottom. I always like that with that crystal.
That's 2 LEDs. That's the LED chips from you. You gave me those.
Those look very, very even on that crystal.
Yeah.
That crystal's
Yeah, the
beautifully
crystal's
lit.
nice. I'll tell you what I did. I filed the bottom of the crystal down a little flatter so the light spread more into it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it looks nice.
That looks absolutely great, yeah.
Oops, hang on.
I always like the way that crystal chamber looked, too.
The pulse is awesome. I love the pulse.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I got Harris working on a couple crystal chambers that like we kind of were inspired by this one, and he has new ideas for crystal chambers, and we're gonna put one of his crystal chambers inside the Graflex that we're building for that Graflex contest that we talked about.
Nice.
Can't wait. Can't wait, man. Can't wait to get that going.
I love the peekaboo, effect where you can hide it and then you can show it. Yeah, I gotta.
On this one, yeah.
Fire up. Remember this?
Yeah,
one,
because
Harry?
Harris has got the shield that goes over his crystal.
Now it's in the downward position now. I can open it slowly too. I can show you guys. Let's see. There it is.
Yeah, it's freaking sweet. Sweet.
It gets a lot quieter when that thing's down, huh?
Yeah,
Did it get a lot
of the
quieter?
sound out of the crystal chamber. It's
Oh.
You might notice it on camera.
Yeah.
But the volume's pretty good on it.
When it's open.
The volume's pretty good on it.
Resonance chamber.
All this is res, and
Yeah.
then it kind of comes through. The battery sits right here, and then it comes through. The sound comes through right here into the back of it. I don't know if you get a little louder.
Yeah.
It got a lot louder. Yeah, it's much louder when you open the chamber.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Well, I like how I like how the hilt doesn't get too much longer because it's already like a small hilt. So even
it
though
only comes up in another inch or two.
yeah, and it like totally fits because the hilt is already kind of tiny.
It's like a
So
Shoto.
I'll show you. Once it's open, you also have the openings in the front of it.
That's sweet. It makes the
The
windows.
color comes through there.
I like
the
that a
windows
lot.
come out.
Yeah,
That reminds
and
me of
for
those Old Republic sabers.
For those that don't realize, this is just one of those patch store Kyojins that I updated.
Yep, I know.
I gutted it, redid the whole thing. I extended it on the end here. I made it an inch or two longer, retaining the pommel. I also filled in, it had an open pommel. This is a TCSS pommel. That what I basically did is I hand ground the outside of that pommel coin in there, that pommel disc,
Right.
and forced it in there. So it's really like it looks like it's one piece now.
That's pretty.
So I never liked the open pommel. And this is also like a kill key storage. And I made this kill key. This is just a kill key material from TCSS and a little brass ball that they sell at any Home Depot, Lowe's. I had to open up the ball a little bit and then just glued them together. And I made my own kill key.
That's sweet. So it has a recharge port too.
Yeah, recharge port's right there.
Oh, okay.
It's got white LED, and it's got blue and yellow LEDs that do the animation on it.
You
And
always
when
got
it's
the
doing
blinkies going.
Yeah, well, they do different things. Like when you turn it off,
Uh-huh.
they blink fast, and then they go a different animation when they're off. That's on. And then when you do a blaster block or a lockup, you get a little crazy there. They all kind of go nuts at the same time. So, yeah, it's fun. I trimmed a lot into this little hilt. What I wanted to see if I could do,
Well, you did a phenomenal job, dude. It's
Thank you, bro.
It's a
Thank you.
masterpiece.
We did some. I don't know. I don't think you've shown it to him. Don't show it to him. But we did some nice work on your hill, Bill.
I've been waiting for it. I've been like a kid at Christmas waiting for this thing.
Yeah, man. I know. It's
I was
right
hoping
now.
to see it around my birthday or around Tro's, but
COVID sucks, man.
Well, you can't rush, perfection. So when you're working on art.
Love that.
So I mean, I don't care. I can wait till I'm 50 to get it.
No.
Love that, buddy. Cool. Love you. And that's why I love you. You're the dude, man. I love you, bro.
You're the man. I miss
My
you
boy.
guys.
I miss you too, man. I miss hanging with you,
We've
dude.
been talking about going to see Tro's. I got the despecialized edition of the original trilogy on Blu-ray, and we're talking about doing, when this thing blows over, just getting together, do a marathon, get some pizza, get the Sabers out, and just have a ball.
Can't wait.
Just,
Megtooth Sith Sabers is here. Hello.
Can't
What's
wait.
going on, Tom? How are you doing, buddy? Hope you're staying safe.
I don't know if you guys see it, but I'm playing with a crystal.
Ooh, I like that.
Is that blue quartz?
That looks real nice.
It's like it's just a quartz, and I just colored it up a little bit.
Okay.
But I had a little, my little secret trick, a little bit of clear nail polish or clear paint, and that'll stay blue for the rest of its life.
All right, hold on a second. I gotta get my daughter. She's screaming.
Okay.
So I'd like to tell you, I was walking down the street and I found this crystal, but I didn't.
That it called out to you.
Should have found it in an ice cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was actually thinking, like from what Bill was saying a minute ago about watching The Rise of Skywalker. Like I was kind of thinking that maybe we could watch. I don't know if I should put his child on the stream. Bill, I don't know. Yeah, let's. I was thinking maybe we would watch the movie, kind of put the movie off camera. We all start at the same time, and kind of go through it and maybe talk about it. I still haven't seen the first hour. It'll probably mean that I'll have to buy The Rise of Skywalker, or maybe I'll just watch it on some other way. But we could all kind of start
it to come out on Disney.
I don't know if that's going to be they probably want to sell it first, for I don't know how long that's going to go for.
I bought it on Amazon Prime, and I put on my Oculus, and I'm in my own private movie theater watching it on a big screen, dude.
Oh wow.
It's pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's cool.
I got it. I bought it, the digital version of it in 4K, and so you could.
Is it 3D when you watch?
You could buy it in 3D, but the one I got isn't. I just got the regular version, and you watch it in a big screen, and it's literally like sitting inside a massive movie theater. It's crazy, and you got the whole theater to yourself.
Oh,
cool. Yeah. And you're just sitting in the movie theater watching whatever.
That's crazy.
You could rent or buy, and I just got The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm watching it in this massive screen. Like IMAX theater. It's just like an IMAX theater, dude. It's ridiculous.
That's
awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah, you guys.
Do you choose the seat that you sit at? What if you?
I haven't tried moving. They give you center row. You got
okay. They give you the perfect spot.
They give you the.
Wow, so you pick your seat.
Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible. That's incredible.
It's incredible, cool. Dude. It's incredible. I've been watching movies on that thing all week, in my own private movie theater.
Tom's got the Oculus Quest. Is that what you have, Gabe?
Yeah, the Oculus Quest. That's what I have.
Okay, well, dude, I don't know how you get anything done, because this thing is. He says he's playing Vader Immortal 3 and Lightsaber Dojo.
Yeah, that's the best.
This stuff is. I mean, just a computer to start out with, you get time warp when you're on just a regular game. Then when you go in this thing, how crazy is it? It's like
in the place. It's crazy the stuff you could do.
Because you actually have the lightsaber. You're totally blindfolded, basically in this crazy world.
Yeah, it's like the Jedi training tool right there.
Yeah.
Helmet.
But that must be cool with the movie viewing, because you probably then kind of how 2 hours went by. We're watching a movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's pretty badass, man. I loved it. I can't wait for you guys to check it out.
Jedi Arms Dealer, what's going on, buddy? OG
Yo,
Saber
yo.
Talk crew. Yeah, we got everybody here. We had Chinese Bill, but he was he might be back. He had to take care of his
Come
daughter.
back, Bill.
Oh, Steve is here. What's going on, ST Productions? You guys met
What's
Steve
up, brother?
last time.
I was just chatting with Steve.
Is that Steve that came down to see us?
Yeah. We took
Steve, hit me up on Facebook, man.
Yeah, we took a photo with him. I was actually going to use that photo for like the thumbnail for this, but then I was like, I didn't know that if I could get him in here or whatever. But he was here a couple. I guess it was probably more than a month ago now.
Yeah, we had fun that night hanging.
Are you going to try to watch Rise of
Maybe
Skywalker
next time.
tonight?
Maybe next time we'll go see him. How about that? We should do a road trip.
Yeah. Especially after this COVID thing, everybody's gonna want to get out their houses, man.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely take a ride.
Absolutely.
Megtooth, I'll have to try watching. Yeah, you should try. It's pretty cool. If you don't already have the Amazon, it's called Amazon Prime VR, the app. If you already have it, check it out. It's pretty decent. I didn't
Gabe,
know.
like how many movies do they offer? Like, do they offer
everything that's on Netflix? It's the same crap. Everything that's on Amazon. You
That's
could buy or rent and just watch it in your own private movie theater and that thing.
That's wild. Dude.
So cool.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I literally went to the kitchen. No joke. My wife will tell you. I literally went to the kitchen, made some popcorn, got me a soda, sat right in my living room. Because I have those movie recliner sofas right here in my living room with the cup holder and the recline back.
Oh yeah.
It was just like I was in a movie theater. I had popcorn. I was eating popcorn with my Quest on in a movie
cool.
theater, in an IMAX theater, watching Rise of Skywalker.
Almost like it's even better though, because the back of your head can like lean back and touch the seat, right? And the screen would just be now up here, almost like you're in the planetarium or something like that. Like actually, they should call up the movie like in a. Do you remember like the real like? Did you guys ever go to the actual like IMAX like thing where it's like a globe? I don't know what those are called.
It's like a curvature and it comes over top of you a little bit.
Yeah, like they have one at the Liberty Science Center.
Yeah.
Over in Jersey here.
It has like a concave to it.
Yeah, and it's like they do like planetarium type stuff where it's like all around you.
Yeah.
And they could put you in like Alaska where the whole sky is there with like Aurora Borealis and the wolves on the horizon and the snow and just it's
cool.
Crazy.
I literally just downloaded, I mean, I know this ain't really Saber related, but since we're on the topic, I just downloaded an app called Wanderer and on the Oculus Quest, and with that app Wanderer, you could walk around anywhere in the world. You can go see Paris, China, Russia, anywhere you want to go, China, and go walk around and see like landmarks and stuff. It's like
your only option now. Before they were like actually a real option.
Everybody's on their Oculus Quest to get out.
That's pretty crazy. Like what happens when you get there? Like let's say you get to the Eiffel Tower. Can you go to the top of the Eiffel Tower or whatever? Or like how?
It depends on whoever did the videotaping and all that other stuff. If they gained access to all that stuff, you'll be able to see whatever they recorded.
I see. It's like somebody's like 4K recording or something.
Exactly. Either 360 camera or 360 video camcorder thing, and you get to look around and see whatever they saw or things like that, photos and
very cool.
So it's like you're standing at the spot. It's pretty cool. But
that'd probably be cool if you could play like Red Dead Redemption with that thing on, because like the scenery, although it's not like 100% realistic, they do have like really cool like animated, every sunset is like unique, and they have the whole vistas of the whole west and like deserts and snowy mountains. They just have everything, but obviously it's not like, at least for me, it's not like all around you like it would be if you had that on you. I don't know if you had one of those things for PlayStation, would it like work like that? I have no idea.
I don't know. I guess with PSVR, it might. I know that there's some people doing some type of it's called virtual desktop now with the Oculus, where you could stream from your PC to the headset. So you have more options of games to choose from, like whatever that headset can handle. You stream it from the PC because the PC is more powerful with graphics and whatnot. So you can play a lot more games, and there's people playing all kinds of stuff that I never even heard of that you can do on the Oculus now.
Very cool.
Meg2 says, I'm building 3 sabers tonight. I'll download Amazon Prime VR. I own The Rise of Skywalker on Amazon Prime. Will it transfer over? Yeah, once you get on Amazon Prime VR, you log in to Amazon Prime just in a headset, like you would on a computer desktop. You just log into your Amazon account, and all your movies or whatever you paid for is on the list. On your it'll say My List or whatever, My Movies, and then you'll be able to see whatever you downloaded right on your headset there. And that's it. That's the way I did it. I bought it on my Amazon on the phone, and I just put on the headset and watched Rise of Skywalker on Amazon Prime once I logged in with my Amazon account. There is Bill.
I'm back.
Billy's back.
Oh, so
What
speaking
up, Billy?
of, since it's a Saber show, and speaking of the Rise of Skywalker, so before we bash the movie, what do you think about the 2 new sabers that were introduced?
I thought it was. I'm not going to critique the how would I say it?
Fantasy saber.
No, yeah. Well, the Rey
The Leia saber
and all that stuff. I'm not going to critique how they looked, but I'm going to say it was refreshing to see new sabers. I liked it. I like the fact that I saw some new sabers.
Did they show that that evil Rey double like stapler saber that came on? Oh, they did.
So you can spy them for man.
It was only in there for like a half a second, you know.
Right. It was just like what they
remember
showed in the trailer.
I've only seen the movie one time. I saw it in the theater. I haven't seen it again.
Evil Rey fought the good Rey with.
I do. Is that what they did? I kind of. It's like a blur to me now at this point. It's been so long.
You know, the Dark Cave. It was kind of her confronting herself.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
like her evil side, because she, obviously was a Palpatine.
Yeah.
And that's a vision she saw of who she could have been. So It was kind of like fighting, when Luke fought Vader in the cave, or when Rey was on the cave in Octu, she got to see, herself as she could be in a Force vision. And if she wanted to, I thought it would have been really cool. If they were going to go the Palpatine route, it would have been cooler if Ben was going to be good the whole way through and, seduced by the dark side. And Rey would have been, the antagonist. And that would have been really cool, seeing her as, the evil one. And it would have been really cool if she was the daughter of Han Solo and Qi'ra from the Solo story, because of her ties with Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul. So Qi'ra, obviously made her a dark user. So it would have made more sense, that plus she had a British accent. And, I just think the whole movie was convoluted. Like, they had some great sentimental parts, especially with Leia and on the way they paid tribute to her. And, but they retconned everything in The Last Jedi.
Now they didn't do Leia right, as far as from what I saw. They just gave Leia some kind of overdose in the Force, and then she passed away because of overdosing in the Force, just like Luke. It's like this whole overdose crap has got to stop. This is awful.
But they didn't have any footage.
They had when you were talking about how Rey faced herself, like the good and the dark one faced her. Like, what happens if you have a character like Darth Bane, who's just like evil through and through, kind of? Like, do they face like a darker version? Like, is it like lighter dark versus like darker dark in their kind of Force vision, or is it like evil versus just
great Jedis?
Evil? Like, if they have a Force test, that's
great
like
Jedis
that.
are not canon.
That's what I'm saying. Now he's mixing colors. Now he's getting great Jedi. It's not too light, but it's not too dark, and it's not black and white.
Or they have to face, like a satanic version of themselves.
But supposedly the new movie they're talking about, episode 10, is supposed to be the High Republic. It's going 200 years before the Phantom Menace. So they're going to a whole new level with this, and there's supposed to be 3 interconnected stories talking about there's a Jedi just called Skywalker in the Old Republic. And it's supposed to be the ancestor of all the Skywalker lineage, but he's just called Skywalker. And have you seen any of the new artwork for it? It's called the High Republic. That's the
High Republic. Yes.
The new trilogy is all about the High. they're trying to get Keanu Reeves. He would be an awesome Revan if they finally made Revan canon.
Yeah,
But
I saw
don't
they
know
were trying to make
how
him.
far.
They would.
I
They
did
would
hear
just
they were trying
ruin
to
it.
get Keanu Reeves.
They would just
Yeah,
ruin
he'd be an
Revan.
awesome Revan. I mean, they're trying.
Yeah,
to
but they would just like write some kind of bad story about Revan that had nothing to do with the books and just enrage everybody.
Well, they've
and it
already
would-
enraged everybody as it is. I think with the prequels. I mean, the sequels. I mean, it just got to the point where they could have had 2 movies at the end. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy and Iger destroyed, the sequels. I mean, because the original last episode had 4 hours and change. They could have made 2 movies out of it. And Colin Trevorrow, who they fired halfway through, had another character that was even supposed to be more powerful than Palpatine. That was actually pulling the strings all along. It was like some kind of Sith Lord or dark user that was even supposed to be even more powerful than Palpatine, who was pulling all the strings. From that would retcon everything Palpatine did. So they actually had a final battle where it was supposed to be this acolyte that was supposed to be inhabited by the Emperor, and he was supposed to fight Ben and Rey in the final battle. That was supposed to be like the final battle, but they retconned it. They destroyed all that because Kathleen Kennedy had this agenda where she wanted it a certain way, and totally made Abrams not want to do Star Wars anymore because she totally poo-pooed everything he did, everything that Trevorrow had written. Because what was really going to be called was Duel of the Fates, to give homage back to the prequels, and it was supposed to be this huge final battle between this dark acolyte and them, and the whole beginning scene is actually him on Mustafar, and he was getting the Wayfinder, and they don't explain enough because they had to rush so much of the movie trying to cram everything in 2 hours. If they would have made 2 movies and released one on Christmas and one maybe like on around July, May 4th, I think that would have been awesome. So,
what do you guys think about the fact that what if this thing changes hands again?
What do you mean?
Like the fact that Disney is going through a potential struggle.
Well, I mean, they're really trying to bring in the real creatives. Like they gave Favreau and they gave Filoni creative control of everything going forward right now. And they're not. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy still has another year on her contract before they hire a new, I guess head of Lucasfilm before they go. That's like Iger stepped down right before all the stuff hit the fan with the COVID. I mean, it was strange how 219 CEOs of major corporations between Bill Gates and Iger all stepped down right before everything hit. They sold a lot of their stocks, and then COVID hit and the stock market crashed. So it seemed a little fishy in that regard. But Kennedy still has a year, and I think they're trying to either get Favreau or Filoni to be the next person at Lucasfilm, the president or whatever, the head, and get rid of Kennedy. But I don't know.
I really want George Lucas to come back in and be like, listen, I'll buy this thing back from you.
Well, I don't know about buying it back, but they made a pact that he's going to be a consultant all throughout everything going forward with Filoni and Favreau. So everything that's going to be coming out between the live shows, because they're talking about doing 4 live shows. They're talking about doing, Mando's coming out in the fall. Then they're going to come out.
What do you mean
with,
live shows?
Like they do with the Mando. You know how they're doing live TV on Disney Plus?
Okay, I understand.
So,
I thought you meant like a live performance somewhere.
No, but they're
Okay,
doing.
I didn't get. Okay, check.
So they're doing live shows like
Actors,
that. Where,
yeah.
like series.
Okay.
They're doing live action series. So they're doing
I got you.
Toby, which is still in process. They still have Ian McGregor coming back, and they're going to show what happened between him dropping off the baby up to the point of him coming back with Luke. They're going to show.
Yeah, but don't you think at this point, especially the last thing we heard with that was that it was halted because of a script issue, and then this whole thing happened. So I don't know. I don't know if things are when people come back to work, are the plans going to change for what we were gonna get, what was gonna come out.
I don't think so, because at this point, I mean, Disney right now is struggling to reclaim the Star Wars fan base because it got so divided between The Last Jedi and going forward. The only thing to
The
save
Last
the
Jedi
grace
was the one that really screwed it up, really
Right.
bad. That's the one that really.
caused such a
So the Rise of Skywalker had to try to fix not only what the Last Jedi did, but then try to end the saga of 30, 40 years on top of fixing the screw up of the Last Jedi. So that after that movie, it all went downhill, and it's going to take people. It's going to take people to actually appreciate the OG essence of what Star Wars was and should be. Not is now, because right now it's kind of screwed up, but was and should be. And
that's why The Mandalorian was.
It's going to hit. It's going to be a problem.
Well, The Mandalorian, I think, was the beginning of that. So if they start going toward that and they continue in that vein, I think they'll bring back the fan base. And if they keep true with Lucas coming back as creative consultant and having Filoni and Favreau, who are true fanboys, to actually,
then we have a chance.
yeah. Well, I mean, but here are the live shows they're doing. They're doing a Kenobi, they're doing a Mace Windu, they're doing Cassian Andor, which I don't understand. I don't think he was that, interesting. That I would have liked to see more with an Ahsoka. But supposedly, Ahsoka is going to be in Mandalorian season 2, and it's going to be played by
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes.
My heart.
So,
I love her.
Yeah.
So she's going to be live action Ahsoka. And if you guys have been watching any of the new Clone Wars, have you guys been watching the last season?
No.
They've done a whole
I've been
3 or 4 episodes of just Ahsoka and showing what happened after she left the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
So it almost kind of encapsulates, it goes partly with the book, but it doesn't. So they use characters from her book, but they don't really tell the same story. So, but it's showing the build up to the Mandalorian War, and it's kind of had this lull now where the Mandalorians have finally gotten involved, and now the last 5 episodes are probably just going to be, just all out, the final Mandalorian. That's what they've been talking about in the Clone Wars, since they ended it, and they never finished, season 6. It kind of just ended on a weird note with Yoda, just coming and saying, "Oh, the Force is strong," and blah blah blah, and it was just over. And then they always talked about how this Mandalorian War is supposed to be the be all end all of this trilogy, and now it's hopefully going to create this momentum for the last 5 episodes to show what really happened in the Mandalorian War. And Ahsoka's going to be back, and it's going to be a total. Hopefully, I hope it's triumphant, because Filoni, honestly, he did an excellent job with the Clone Wars. He did an excellent job with helping with the Mandalorian. I really like Rebels. Season 2 of Rebels was amazing. When they brought Ahsoka back and Fake Vader. And I don't know. Some people are a little bit torn on Rebels. They think it was kind of like Disney's Aladdin meets Star Wars, and it was kind of but at least they stay true to what people want to see, and that's Jedi, lightsabers, dark users, and battles, and they brought Maul back. I mean, that whole thing with Maul, where he came back and finally got ended by Kenobi on Tatooine, and ended the whole Chosen One episode. But it's just one of those things where they're really trying to save this by bringing in other A-listers, because they were talking about bringing DiCaprio, and they wanted to bring in Jennifer Connelly. They wanted to bring in other big name stars to kind of reboot this whole High Republic, and it's supposed to be massive Jedi and Sith. It's supposed to be this huge war, and you're going to see maybe even the old.
And how can it be when it's supposed to be 200 years before, and we're supposed to not have any problems for what is it, almost 1,000 years? Remember? We'll come back to this in a second. Steve Harris says, anyone seeing slow shipping from the Custom Saber shop? I ordered something last week and no shipping yet. Yeah, I think I experienced that a little bit, where I ordered something last week and just today it got shipped. I didn't know if that was kind of because it's like a big order, or potentially the custom saber shop is probably having to use like less crew to pull the orders. I'm assuming because they probably can't have their crew come in.
Well, I think part of it was since the COVID, that part of social distancing, and then he ran out a lot of things because people were ordering tons of parts, because what else are you going to do, being, quarantined. A lot of people were building, once the Golden Harvest board came out. I mean, that's been the big new profy, new teensy type of board besides the Verso. I mean, Verso is like, you can't even get a Verso right now. So those are the new hot things besides, obviously CFX and people still on the profit tip. But since those things have started hitting the market, they've been flooding. A lot of the Insta-Smiths have been coming out. A lot of people with, just building. I know the Kyber Cave ordered tons of stuff from the Custom Saber shop because they had a huge opening, and they had Gary Ripper from Ripper Blades come down, and they have some kind of like I don't know, partnership where they're selling lots of sabers. They're selling anything from an Ultra Saber to custom saber shop parts to buy, selling, trade, any kind of saber you could think of. And I saw parts of their opening in the store. They had a huge opening day where they gave away prizes and food, and there are people dressed up in cosplay, and the whole store is nothing but saber parts, sabers, and then they also do kind of this saber sparring type of thing.
What
it's
store is
totally
this?
different.
Where is this?
The Kyber Cave. I think they're in California.
Oh, okay.
But they just opened, and they're pretty pretty blowing up right now as far as like being one of those places where people can come, and it's like the old comic book shops where people would come, and all the nerds and geeks would come and talk shop and buy like gaming stuff and buy like collectibles. Well, this is like for the Sabers and the Star Wars people. It's a place where they can come and buy, sell, and trade saber parts, sabers, cosplay. People come down. They do like actually have sparring classes. Like they do for Ludo Sport and stuff like that, where people are actually coming in and learning almost like some of the forms. So they're learning like Shirisu and some of the other one of the 7 forms. They're teaching them. So it's kind of like a club, and it's kind of like basically, like I said, it's like what the old comic book shops used to be, for Star Wars nerds and geeks that come together. And he, like I said, he cleaned them out. I mean, you can't even get any of the MHF1V1 parts, for like the bodies or extensions.
Is that where they all went to? Like
I saw a ton in his store. Like he had a whole.
What do you mean? Like those parts are available, or they're made into sabers already?
No, they're parts that are available, and people can come in and build something. So he bought a lot of those. I think they built a lot. They bought a lot of the kits. How they have the new, MHS. They have the stunt kits. They have the RGB with the Nano Biscotti pre-wired kits, and they also have the MHB2 pre-wired.
Harris, that's where they all went to.
So I think he cleaned them out right before he opened, because he was, showing off like, all these. He had a huge glass counter with nothing but MHS, TCSS parts. He had like Ultra Sabers he was selling. He was selling like, every saber that you could think of. Buying them either from his collection, secondhand. People were, like buy, selling, and trading. They had everything from, who are the guys in Canada? Was Electrum, Sabercraft, and he had Ultra Sabers and Saber Forge and Vader's Vault. I mean, like the whole, the whole nine. I mean, And
you mean he had various sabers from those companies there?
Correct. He was selling them. He was selling TCSS parts. You could build your own saber, buy one of the pre-wired kits, and just build your own saber and walk out with a saber. Like you pick your parts. You buy the kit.
Let me ask you a quick question. How is he making money at that? Is he
Probably
buying
inflating the
bulk
prices.
from
Think about
TCSS,
this.
saving money?
Well, he's probably inflating the prices because you think about this, all right? So, you figure the parts themselves, you could build a full hilt for about $100, right? So the kits were going anywhere between, $150 to, $200, depending on. So if you turn around and sell a saber for $500 or $600, somebody walks out with one, he's making a couple $100 on it. I mean, and if he's buying in bulk or if he gets a discount. So, I mean, he's obviously making some money. And then if you're selling, new and used sabers, obviously you're going to do a markup because, if you're selling an Ultra Saber, they usually go, for a stunt, like maybe $100, he might be selling for $150. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's, what he's doing because you're getting something. It's like walking in the Saberport showroom and walking out with a saber. Like you can actually go in there and whatever they have available, you could walk out with a complete saber, the day you walk in if it's available. Same with like from their ASP parts that you can't get online. So it's like
I've actually seen Ultra Sabers operation at a convention,
right?
And they have what they do is they put all their stuff out on a shelf,
Yep.
and you pick out what you want, and then they have cases of the parts, and they had 4 or 5 guys sitting there soldering them together in the back of a little tent.
Yeah,
so it's quick. I mean, they can do it quick. They throw them together quick,
Well, it's hot glue gun and the pre-made parts. I mean, everything's just like assembly.
It all screws together.
They were so popular because they were shipping out, subpar electronics. But for the Stunt Saber, like I'll be honest, like I bought one because I do TSL and I already had a Aeon V2. And I wanted to get a second one with a coupler so I could do dual wielding and dual saber staff. Well, I ordered it in January, and I didn't get it for 2 months. And the coupler was bad. It was defective. It got stuck in the hilt. The LED they used was bigger, and usually has a 2-inch blade socket. It was a 1.5 blade socket. They finally got back to me today. I sent them about 10 emails and Facebook messages saying I want a replacement or a refund. This is defective. I waited. This was my birthday present. I've been waiting since January, and then I finally got a response today to send it back, and they're going to fix it. But I did everything I could to try to get it out. Even with a pair of pliers. I the thing got shredded because it was already stripped, and they were rushing stuff out so bad because they got hit bad when the COVID-19 hit because of all their parts. Even though they assemble it in the United States, I would say about 80% of sabersmiths that do high volume are getting your parts in bulk from China. So there's parts like, your
I've told you that. Ant.
What's that?
I've told you that. They're finding a manufacturer in China. It's cheaper.
Well, I mean, that's why YDD is so huge because YDD, people don't realize your Kyojin, all these other names they give them, Pop Store, Wonder Force. I mean, all these places, if you buy in bulk, even Vader's Vault did it because they had prop hut. They were selling. That's what the saber you guys have. Mine. That's a YDD saber. They're mass-produced Chinese sabers. They probably cost them $20 in parts to make, and they go around and sell them for $50 to $100 and $200 depending on the levels. And now they're putting out neopixels. I mean, they're you can get a neopixel with a blade. From Wonder Force or Pock Store for $320. I mean, I saw the Revan when that was released. They were selling out for $320, and it had a removable chassis. They were putting proppy boards or their Asteria V25 boards in, and Aaron Lynn was doing the tip drag. It was showing the rainbow, it was showing the fire. Or it had 12, I think, or 16 fonts you could download, and they're all by K-Sith. And you could add more, but their new system is actually really good because it has a removable chassis plector that can be taken out of 5 different sabers. They have a Fallen Saber, they had the Revan Saber, they have the new Revan, which is like the Butcher kind of that saber that does it. They have one that was the new Anakin, like the Tusken Slayer saber. So they have those. All those are interchangeable. You could buy empties, buy one saber with the blade and the kit, and remove the chassis and put in another saber and pop the blade in, and you could have 4 or 5 different hilts with that system, and that's brilliant if you think about it, because there are ones saber they have that is a Imperial Knight, $85 just for the hilt. But if you get the electronics, they have the removable a stereo board, so you can do Profi on it, and you can do the whole Plector, or NeoPixel, however you want to, I guess it would be NeoPixel with that, but all of them are all undercutting a lot of the places here, and the shipping times are half the times that you would wait for, like, say, a Vader's Vault or even Saber Forge.
Where do you find those type of
I'm
lightsabers?
I'm almost
eBay?
waiting a year and a half.
For what?
I got a year and a half in for my flame.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing with that too, because in Turkey, though, I mean, it's like it's so much harder to get the materials because most stuff is mass produced in China. So you're going to get your aluminum, you're going to get your electronics, any of that stuff. You're going to find even what 89 Sabers did and what Phoenix Props did. I mean, you have to find some kind of company that's going to mass produce this. And that's why YDD is so huge, because you can buy their sabers on Amazon, Alibaba, AliExpress,
They're all over.
Wish,
Amazon.
You could go right to eBay, and
Amazon has them.
People are selling them on Etsy too, and they just put different names on them. It's the same Kyojin, like this one. This is my
This
daughter's
one.
saber. I got that for her birthday. It's the same thing.
This
you
was a
have, Aaron.
Kyojin.
Yeah.
I bought this from
Same
Aaron
you have.
Lynn.
But I got it for $50.
I
And
bought
it
this
was-
from
I got
Aaron
it
Lynn
from
himself
Amazon.
at Philadelphia Comic Con 2 years ago.
But I'm saying, like, they mass produce it. You got to buy them in bulk, though. You buy, like,
Oh yeah, I mean that
5,000
he
sabers.
gave me a
they'll
deal
sell
on
to
that.
you
It
for,
was
like,
broken.
$20 a saber, but you got to order in bulks, and that's
Yeah.
what's killing the market, because
Sure.
they're flooding the market with all these pseudo subpar sabers, but they're competing because you can get full electronics, 3 fonts, RGB, and they're decent for $100. That's what these. If you've seen the Saber Forge Eco Sabers, they're all YDD sabers. They're all made by.
That's
Chinese.
amazing because they're all like metal too, which is quite nice.
Right. I mean, but
Aluminum.
that's the thing. That's why
Aluminum,
China's economy,
Yeah.
being communist, undercuts everybody, and because the labor is like so cheap, the parts are so cheap. People are buying in bulk. That's what killed us. That's why Trump was trying to put tariffs or more import restrictions on stuff coming from China, because the United States used to be the #1 manufacturing country in the world. And when we stopped after World War One, we sat back on our laurels, and all of a sudden, remember, everything was made in Japan, everything was made in Taiwan. Now everything's made in China, Indonesia, Bangladesh. I mean, all these other countries are undercutting everything else because they're buying stuff that the materials is so cheap, the labor is so cheap, and now they flooded the market with it. It's waiting for a quality saber, either commissioned by one of you guys, or buying it and waiting for Saber Forge or your Ultra Sabers. But the thing is, what's killing them is the fact that they haven't come into the next generation yet. I mean, they're still behind.
Yeah, well, a lot of people aren't aware of the next generation. Like, it's kind of even though we all are, it's like a small niche that understand, like, the NeoPixel. Like Megtooth Sith says here, Profis can be miraculous if you do a lot of research. And the OS 4.0 with the melt, the force effects, lightning block, and other stuff that's great is about to drop. And if you guys have seen those videos, FET263, or some of these other people that write the code and display the code on YouTube for the Profi stuff, it is really crazy. When Steve was here, ST Productions, he showed us some of the stuff that he had going on his Profi lightsaber, and it was just amazing looking. That's the type of stuff that you kind of have to go the next level up to get, to understand that that's available, first of all, and second of all, to seek out somebody like Megtooth Sith that can make it happen for you, and you're going to get all the best stuff on your lightsaber when you ask Megtooth Sith for something or a Jedi arms dealer, they deal with the Profi like they know it through and through, and they hook it up like precisely. If you leave it to the people who are like learning it, like me and Gabe and Harris, we're still learning how to navigate the Profi stuff, so it takes me like a bit longer. Like I'm making a Profi setup for my friend Mark right now, and it's just taking me a little longer than I think one of these other guys because, there is a learning curve to it.
Well, you gotta be besides a mechanical engineer, you gotta be a technical engineer. You gotta be a computer programmer, a computer.
There's so many backgrounds.
But you think about like the people that have perfected it, like Irv Plechter and Dimitri Shock, like these people, are geniuses in their field. I mean, they've gotten to the point. This is the way I look at this. Plechter Labs to me is like the Apple products because they're simplistic, but yet they're solid and they're less buggy. But then you have the open source products like an Android.
They work.
Where everything is open source and everybody can do something if you know how to do it. But the problem is, to the usual user, I mean, we're lucky we can just turn the thing on and charge it. So for a knucklehead like me who just bashes people with my lightsaber, because of TSL and because, I'm not, that technical with the stuff, it's one of those things where that's why those LEDs are still popular because it's a no-brainer.
Like a Metalhead 323 here says, I have a Profi lightsaber. I wish I knew how to add the fonts. And that's like that. You could get into a little trouble, like Bill, if you're like me or you or me a couple months ago when I didn't know anything about it, and when we tried to do something to make a change, we couldn't get it to work. You had to really know what you're doing and do it right, and then it would work.
Well, see, that's why you need a team because I mean, like you got a company like Corband. They have their own website and they do mainly just Profi. They do if you're going to buy a NeoPixel, it's all Profi. And
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So if you ever go to their website, like they already have a lot of the stuff. So I in my opinion, I really think the best thing for Sabersmiths to do is to find your niche, is to find whatever is the most accessible for you to work on and use, just use those products because that'll streamline everything for you. If you're more versed in the Profi, do just Profi. If you're more versed in the CFX, just do the CFX. I'm not saying that, you can't have it, but all those things, but it'll rack your brain to the point of, it's like learning a new language and translating it into something else. So if you're good at doing Apple, stay with Apple. Like, I like Apple products. They're simple, they work, and they're not buggy. But if you're more like one of those, geniuses like Dimitri Shock and these other people that can, come up with these things and program it and make it work and make it work right all the time, then go that route. And, but like I said, now there's companies like JQ Sabers. They just put out a Versa board he created. He got that mass produced. So it's very simplistic. It's one of those things where it's for the
that looks very friendly for people to do themselves for sure.
And it's also good if you just want a basic saber with sound and
well, the Profi is very easy to wire. Me and Harris both thought so. The Profi is very easy to wire, and then it doesn't take a whole lot of research and attention to kind of start to get familiar with it, or like for someone like an emerging genius like Steve, ST Productions didn't know what to do either, but went and read the manual and got it done, and now he can easily control the Profi, add stuff. He gets it, and that came from somebody who wasn't someone who thought he could do it at first, but was like, oh, I'm just gonna like look into it and see what's going on in the manual. The manual actually supports it very well. It's got some good instructions, and there's like two manuals. There's like one that Frederick made, and there's one that Dimitri wrote, and I like them both for different reasons. I have them both up when I'm wiring a Profi. Metalhead, any of you guys local to LA or Orange County, I'd pay to get the fonts added to my Profi. I think Tom helped him here, but Jedi Arms Dealers in San Diego.
Yeah, we're all on the East Coast.
Yeah, we're not around there, but some of my Saber family and friends are there. Yeah, so
Billy and I
Megtooth
are
is
in PA,
helping them.
and you and Gabe are in New Jersey.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But you know what? I feel like I'm with my brothers right now, and that's all that matters because just seeing you guys and being to see all of you at the same time again, it's just it just gives me a little bit uplifting my spirit because we've been so isolated, physically from things, and even just communally in a sense. Like I think this is the closest thing you can get to hanging out and still being able to share the love and talk about stuff and until this thing blows over. I mean, this is great because just the fact that I can see you guys, we're talking, we're having some great discussions like we normally do, and just but that's the whole thing. I mean, it's people are always 10 years behind technology. It's always one of those things where you always have those couple people that are on the forefront of things, and then the technology eventually catches up and the prices drop. So when people learn this stuff, like you and Anthony, Harris, like you guys, we'll be able to get this, and it'll be just like nothing to you guys. So once that is done, just like you did with all the Plector Lab stuff, it's just one of those things. But like I said, I think it's great when you can find your niche because then you can produce faster because you know what you're doing on the boards. Because then when you have somebody who's doing like a Nigon board and then doing a Golden Harvest and a Profi and a Teensy and a Verso, it's like
Can I stop you a second?
Oh, yeah.
Has Nigon even, like, I'm not real familiar with Nigon stuff. Have they entered the world of smooth swing and that kind of stuff?
Yes,
Because
they are.
are.
They're on the cusp of it. I mean, they're starting to put it out. I know STARWARS have done it. The ones that use the the gesture. I don't like the gesture buttons. That's my personal preference.
What does that mean, gesture buttons? What's that?
Well, have you ever seen Saber craft? They're Canadian.
Oh, that button where it's like a touch button.
Yeah, it's a touch screen.
I like that. Harris, remember Gabe, was it me and you talking about that? We like that.
I didn't hear that. My earphones died.
So the Bluetooth app, it's really good, but it's a little buggy too. But I mean, for what these two guys have done, I mean, they made a name for themselves because they're the only ones that are doing this. So, and what they're doing, they've revolutionized a lot of the stuff because they've made the stuff, everything in-house. They make everything. They laid everything themselves. They put everything together. I've seen some of their stuff. It's top-notch. If you ever want to check out their EvoFlex, it's amazing. The weathering, everything is like, top-notch. It's just a matter of, like I said, people catching up to the technology. But now I've seen people blowing up the internet with Golden Harvest. Like everyboard been about the Golden Harvest board. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Who does the Golden Harvest board? It's familiar, but not. I don't recall.
It's just like I said. It's just another version of like your Profi, your Teensy. It's another open source board that is kind of like more on the simplistic side, like the Verso. It's for more of the DIYers. It's more for more people that don't do all the stuff that you guys do, like doing your crystal chambers and your blinkies and all that. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's for like somebody like me who, if I wanted to try to solder my own board together, I would probably go with a Verso or Golden Harvest to mess with first because they're like $50 a board or less. I've seen these boards as low as $40. I mean, so it's one of those things where it's like, you mess up a $40 board compared to an $85 board. It's like practice getting your skills together if you're trying to become a DIYer or a sabersmith eventually. But it's just one of those things where, it's pushed the limit now where it's good because it's making a lot of competition and it's giving a lot of people a lot of, different, opportunities to have some variety, because before it used to only be, the Obsidian board, the Plector boards, the Nigon boards, and then your Saber board. I mean, there was only like a handful of boards that, people had available to them, because there was only about maybe 5 companies making consistent boards that were, decent. And now it's like to the point where, with everything coming out, people are creating their own boards. I mean, you could create your own board, with the Chinese boards, these things do like, 12 colors, they do for 16 RGB colors.
I like that it says made in Germany.
Yeah.
I trust that. I trust like things made in Germany, like BMWs and
Oh, there's a really good saber from
Porsches.
Germany. I don't know if you've heard of him, Argentin Sabers. He does some really good work. He does a lot of the stuff from the custom saber shop. He does a lot of commissions. He makes his own, hilts. He does his own powder coating. Like, I mean, he's like, one of the top guys in Germany that has this thing together. Besides, like, KR and JQ and England and the British, area, like that whole, EU.
Megtooth says Golden Harvest boards are not open source.
Oh,
This must be something. This is something. Let me see what it says. Bring your own custom saber alive by giving Golden Harvest heart. Allow us to provide you a unique experience and lift you into another galaxy. The popular online configurator of the old version of the Golden Harvest will soon be available. Also for, I don't think it says something about Smooth Swing or whatever, but it does say out of stock on this site. They're like a Nanabiscotti Verso with Smooth Swing.
Right.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's like a starter board.
Right. Well, like I said, that's what the Verso is. It's one of those things where it's so inexpensive, like Proppies. When Proppies, first came out, they were putting them out for what, $50-$60? When they TTs, they were like $50-$60. So it's like for people that want to mass produce, or start their own, I guess, flagship saber, like KR did. So that's what I always thought you guys would do, is maybe do a flagship saber, offering, I don't know if you do CFX, maybe that could be your main board, but that's what Vader's vault. That's the only thing they use now is the CFX. Everything they build now is just CFX. And what they've done with the, the OLED screens are amazing. I've seen people program video game, like 8-bit, Nintendo looking graphics on there, when they're
like Harris and I are working on something that's going to be the Future Flex, which as you know would be based off of Graflex look, but let's say it's like 150, 200, 250 Star Wars years after the the original Graflex that we're used to.
right.
That'd be interesting, going back to what you were saying before about there being some kind of original Skywalker that they're going to show in some I don't know what you were saying, book or movie. What lightsaber they would have would be what would interest me. Would they have something that would look like a Graflex but would be an older looking Graflex, or are they going to select something that doesn't really have much to do with a Graflex?
Well, I've seen some pictures of the High Republic. If you Google them, you can see some of the new sabers, and the costumes are a little bit more elegant, a little bit more like formal looking. The sabers, they've actually have a cross guard without beams, so it looks more like a Templar, like a bastard type of saber, with the two rungs, like the prongs that are metal, because remember back on Knights of the Old Republic, you could use those metal blades that you could fight against lightsabers. So if you look at them, so one of the main pictures you can see, it almost looks like a crossguard without having the plasma beams coming out of it. It's just a metal like guard, but then the saber comes out the middle. So I don't know if they're fighting like the old type of sabers that were, remember the original ones? They were proto sabers. They had a big pack, and they had to be powered, and it didn't last that long. But before that, they were using metal sabers that they would, in view with the Force, that you would be able to, fight a regular plasma type of lightsaber. So there are weapons like that could spar against. Same with like the Imperial Trooper batons when they were doing the First Order. Remember those that they could deflect a lightsaber. So I mean, there are other weapons that are lightsaber. I mean, even Mandalorian armor.
Ryan from RK Outpost is here. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Ryan?
Thanks for joining in.
Yo.
Yeah, we're talking about one of Ryan's favorite subjects we just started, which is the High Republic. You know what I think, you guys, about the outfits, like when we talk about like what Jedi wear, I kind of think it's been wrong for a long time. Like I even think like Lucas kind of even got his own thing wrong, like when he did the prequels. You see, the costume of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original trilogy was someone in disguise, someone hiding out, someone in a desert cloak,
right?
That was incognito. And everybody forgot that. And when they went to make the Jedi of the prequel era, and they said, well, look what Obi-Wan Kenobi was wearing. That's what Jedi wore. No, that's what people in the desert wear.
Right.
That's what someone in the desert wears that doesn't want to get sunburned and doesn't want anyone to know who they are. And then they put Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in those same outfits as young men. No, that's not the way it should be. Then you have this old Republic or this High Republic stuff coming out. And some of this artwork shows people in those similar type of like flowing gowns and stuff that is more like a covered by a desert cloak.
Right.
I don't think that's how Jedi were supposed to be.
Well, you know what I really loved? Did you guys ever see the Imperial Knights? They were the order where they carried the white lightsabers and they wore the red armor, and they were actually looked like knights. They actually were the guard.
Yeah.
Those to me, what I thought more of like what Jedi or at least Force users,
or even like the original Darth Vader, like Darth Vader in his samurai-like garb was probably more. And if you just take the original trilogy, what they depicted as what a Jedi warrior should be, what they described was Darth Vader.
Right.
The Emperor took Darth Vader and he was one of the good guys and turned him as a bad guy, and everyone saw his armor as the armor of a bad guy. But what if a real Jedi would kind of like maybe Obi-Wan's armor in the Clone Wars, where some of the Jedi had some extra padding, extra plates on their armor and stuff like that, rather than just have the cloaks. That was probably more realistic.
I mean, some of the old games, if you've seen, like, remember the one Jedi had almost looked like Mandalorian armor and a cloak, and then some of the other ones that, were Jedi, they were wearing more, armor as opposed to just wearing more like kimono style. Because if you really think about it, I mean, Lucas had a big fetish with, the Seven Samurai, Kurosawa, like a lot of that translated into his originals, like trilogy about like, the almost looked like Luke was wearing like a karate outfit, in a sense. And, it just kind of like they went back to that in a sense with the prequels, where they're wearing kind of like these, Japanese style type of armor or robes.
Some of the outfits started to look a little more like true to what a Jedi should be, such as like Anakin's outfit from like the second movie and the third movie was more leather and was like you could almost see like like that was like you could see like, okay, like the reason why people wear biker jackets is so they don't get scraped up when they fall and stuff like that. And you would imagine that a Jedi who's jumping around and doing flips and grabbing onto hover cars and stuff like that would not want to skin their knee and would not want to get scraped up, and they know that they're going to be rough and tumble sometimes. So they would wear, at the very least, they would wear like leather outfits, leather padding. You remember the stuff that Darth Vader had in between his armor plates was like tufted leather pants and things like that, and it kind of made sense. Like, you might come into contact with an open flame, or you might come into contact with like extraneous heat, or
Protective.
Yeah, some kind of acid might splash you. I mean, this is Star Wars. This is the universe. God only knows what's going to happen. And you have people running around in a sheet.
Yeah, that never made sense to me. I was kind of flamboyant in a sense because, when I think of a knight, even samurai armor is better than, some of the armor. That's what Vader was basically, I think, kind of like how his look was supposed to be, his helmet. If you've seen the old like samurai like warriors, they would wear the masks to intimidate their opponents. They would have the horns on their helmets. They would have, the armor, and it wasn't bulky to the point where, it wasn't holding down like the old metal armor, but it was enough for protection where it would cover the things that needed to be covered. And I think if they went more in that vein, where if they went more of a tactical look, actually making them look more like knights, even wearing helmets would be kind of cool. Because, when you think of the word knight, I mean, you think more King Arthur, in my opinion. I mean, everybody has, I guess, their own.
Yeah, like in the expanded universe stuff, what they would do, they would basically go for the pilot look. Like they had, it was kind of like set up after the prequels. I mean, after the original trilogy. So it was like after Return of the Jedi, Luke and his sister go along and they have kids and stuff like that. And then they're in this new generation, and their kids become pilots, and they're great pilots at 10, 11, 12, 14 years old, 16 years old. And when they jump out of their X-Wing to fight the bad guys or to run away from the Yuzong Vong or something like that, they have just their pilot outfits on. It makes sense. They might have their boots, and they're like one sort of like they're like onesie overall, like coveralls pilot, kind of like Luke would step out of his X-Wing wearing some kind of coverall with the straps and with the seatbelt anchors and all that. It's just realistic.
Right.
It's just realistic for people that are supposed to be the policemen of the galaxy or the peacekeepers, and they're pretending to be incognito as well, like Obi-Wan was when he was watching Luke. It just doesn't quite make sense. And even if they were being incognito, like we said before, why not just some extra? Like we've seen the Mandalorian now. They really went deep into the armor of the Mandalorian and like what the different materials were for armor. And they went into that a lot too in the expanded universe. They had different levels of armor, things that could repel lightsabers like cortosis. You would imagine if the Jedi were doing their job like they would have been for 1,000 generations, like Obi-Wan said. The Jedi Knights have been defending peace and justice for 1,000 generations. They would have busted some cortosis dealers along the way. They would have busted some people wearing cortosis armor and busted some cortosis plants, and maybe developed some, like, at least some gauntlets for God's sakes, at least some gauntlets, like like a Wonder Woman thing, or maybe like make the hilt out of it, or at least the emitter part, or maybe at least have some on hand to provide the Padawans for their emitter in their lightsaber, so they don't burn themselves, so that, there's got to be some level of some kind of plasma resistant material inside a lightsaber, I would imagine, at least near the emitter, so that unless the beam is, I guess, super highly controlled, that it will never, like, literally burn anything near it or whatever. But, you'd imagine, like, the Jedi would have the most cortosis in the galaxy in their basement.
You would think.
We don't see anybody wearing that.
To make some kind of, like, like shield.
Like the Jedi have the, like the most material the Jedi are hoarding is burlap.
Mm-hmm. Or leather.
That's what they're making. That's what they're making their capes out of.
Oh yeah, we have this linen.
Potato sacks.
We have Egyptian 3,000 count Egyptian cotton, and the only leather you can wear are boots and a belt, and you know you just I don't know. It just to me it doesn't sound knightish to me. It doesn't seem like, and that's why I'm hoping the High Republic they you know, it's like you focus on a couple people, but it's just
it's plopped in a weird place because it's almost like trying to do the Obi-Wan series. So you're saying Obi-Wan is there watching Luke. Supposedly not much happens because he is watching Luke, and usually when you have a story, a super successful story, you come in at the exciting part. And when episode 4 begins, we rejoin Obi-Wan at his very interesting part of his next part of his life, which is okay. Now he's got to go on this new adventure as an old man. To us, if we were watching it originally in 1977, we would have thought that it was his. It's the first adventure that we witness. If you see the prequels, you know that there's adventures before it, or you can listen to Obi-Wan talk about it in the movie itself. But you can't actually say that a whole lot of exciting stuff happened to Obi-Wan because supposedly he's been sitting there waiting for this moment, right? So when we talk about what Obi-Wan said about the past and how Yoda explains to Luke, and if you know anything about the expanded universe and what happened with Yoda, he apparently fought off the last known Sith when he was about 100 years old. So it's been about 800 something years since the last Sith was like ever seen, or whatever. And to say that 200 years before episode 4 in this High Republic era, to say that point in time is supposed to be interesting to us, when apparently you're telling us we had like 1,000 years of peace, because you kicked out the Sith and everyone's been chilling. And that's why in episode 3, everyone's stunned. Because apparently they're taken by surprise. You remember in episode 2, they took... Mace Windu says, I'm going to take the last remaining Jedi. There's like 200. We're going to go to Geonosis. We are going to battle the bad guys over in Geonosis. And you remember the Geonosis battle took out a lot of Jedi. So if they went with 200, maybe they left with 100 if they were lucky, because a lot of them got cut down there. Probably less, because
maybe 50.
The circle that we saw at the end was like 22 people maybe, or less, right?
Yeah.
And then even more people got cut down at that point. To say that there was interesting stuff happen, and in this picture here, we have all the High Republic Jedi with their swords out. They don't use their swords at this time because this is like a peaceful time. They're certainly not all together like at war like this. They're like peacekeepers that are sent to like worlds, and they probably take care of like, okay, one of them left Alderaan to settle some dispute, and he's on his way to, Dantooine to do something else, and we got someone stationed at a far out place, and et cetera, et cetera. But to say that anyone is spectacularly successful at fighting bad guys at this era is a weird thing. When you have millions of years to choose from, you're going to choose 200 years in a peaceful 200 years before our exciting Star Wars movies, when in a supposed galactic time of peace.
But actually, it's not. It's supposed to be a total. There's supposed to be thousands of Sith too, or Dark Users. So it's supposed to be like hordes of Jedi and hordes of Sith or Dark Users that are going to be battling one another. So there's supposed to be epic battles. It's supposed to be, these. They're not really peacekeepers. They've really, the whole thing with everything. They've retconned everything in canon ever since Disney took over. And now they're struggling to find new material. So they went to the EU and trying to take pieces from the EU and make it into something that is now the new canon. But in this, there's supposed to be hundreds of different Dark Lords, and they're all supposed to be different. Same with these the High Republic people. They're supposed to be.
They just simply chose the wrong time, like the wrong time frame. All they had to say was just, instead of using the same hot air that you would use to say 200 years before, use that same breath and get it right and say it's 3,000 years before. Then it makes sense. It makes 100% sense at that point. You're in an era where there could be hundreds of Sith and there could be dark side bad guy users, but you start to hurt, like everything that they touch turns to shit, as far as they're turning our gold into garbage when they take everything, every single line that was said from A New Hope, minute number 0, to Return of the Jedi, or even Return of this or Revenge of the Sith at the very end of the movie, minute number whatever it is, 140 in the movie. You just, line by line, they take it, they dissect it, and they change it for this new stuff, and it doesn't make sense. All you have to do is take one weekend, these people, and watch the original movies and just listen to what they're saying and create your story around those rules, because at that point we're talking about rules that are set up and stuff that we're all following for. Just because they didn't watch the movie or don't care about the movie doesn't mean that 90+% of the fans have and do care about that stuff and care about the stuff that was said. Take it to heart and take it into the next iteration of whatever they're looking at. Gabe, what do you think of all this stuff?
All I'm saying is I'm surprised to even see lightsabers existing 200 years before Skywalker's era. I mean, we're talking about the future to the point where there's laser swords, right? And then 200 years go by and they haven't evolved. The technology and science does not exist in the galaxy somewhere where, they're living in different planets and all different aliens and lightsabers are still the same. I mean, I would have been like, this is before lightsabers. We're talking 200 years. You even mentioned going 3,000 years back. You know what I'm trying to say? Where's the evolution of civilization and technology?
Well, the original sabers, they were metal.
They
used metal,
and they were heavy and had the backpack and all that crap.
So, but then they went and it progressed into the proto pack, where it was connected to it like the proton pack.
But that didn't take 200 years. That didn't take 3,000. That was
like 1,000 years even before that. That was like maybe 3,000 years. When they were doing that, they were fighting with metal swords, and then they started fighting with the proto packs, and then eventually they made the plasma sword. And that's been the standard, I guess, ever since that. And I just think they're trying to bring back the people's sentimentality of what they really wanted, because now it's gotten to the point where they didn't listen to the fans. They lost a lot of the fans. They lost a lot of interest in it because Kathleen Kennedy said, "Oh, these new movies weren't for the fans. They were for the next generation of fans, like to bring in new generation." She had a whole agenda of feminism and propaganda that she, put her politics in it, and that's what ruined a lot of stuff. And then they also retconned a lot of the, other stuff too by bringing in new force powers that didn't exist before, because it's like, oh crap, if Obi-Wan knew how to force heal Qui-Gon, he could have force healed him back in
writing,
right?
Because they were writing the movie as they go along and rewriting it too. My friend Mark joined us. We're building a saber for him right now. Harris, you worked on Mark's saber a little bit, the one with the leather on the end of it, the leather wrap. Yeah, Mark's here.
Nice help. What's up, Mark?
There are so many. Steve says there's so many timelines that they could put this in that won't interfere with continue. Yeah, I guess that's true. Since this would be sandwiched in 200. Okay, so you have let's say you have Darth Bane. If you've read the Darth Bane books, they were like 1,000 years before Luke, and then if you have these people who are 200 years before Luke, and we have Yoda, and Yoda tells us a little bit about his life. He says, I've been around for 900 years. Right. So I guess in the sense, it's almost like Steve said, where it's like, unless you really insert something super clever here, and really make us want to look at this and read this book or whatever, these comics, it's like you really need something interesting and clever, because as far as the future, what could you possibly be doing other than to hurt what we already know? Like, what could you possibly add to it? What are you going to tell us? That this like ancient Skywalker from 200 years before, who's Anakin's great grandfather or grandmother, is some kind of crackhead, or you're going to tell us this person is some kind of degenerate low, you're going to say something. What are you going to say that we're going to like Anakin more when you're done? I guarantee you, we think less of Shmi. We will think less of Anakin. We will think less of Luke and Leia after they're done, because they can't do anything to make them better. What are they going to say to us? The ancient Skywalker won the lottery, or they saved a cat out of a tree. Like, what are you going to do to shine up them more?
Well, I mean, there was a theory that Shmi was actually Sheev's sister, Sheev Palpatine, and there was like a theory that they were actually related.
That sounds kind of cool, actually. That sounds kind of like it makes sense.
With that, there was another theory that it was actually...
It's like, imagine at the end of Rise of Skywalker, everyone's pointing fingers at each other. You have Luke as a ghost at the end with his hand like this. No. Wait, I'm a Palpatine. Oh, you're a Skywalker, and and she's a Palpatine. And wait, my dad was a Palpatine, and you're a Skywalker. Like, everyone would have their fingers crossed, because nobody would know who's who. When at the end of it, and who had what name.
Well, at the end, obviously Rey says, "Nah, I'm a Skywalker," and Lucas originally, he didn't even go to the premiere because he hated the ending so much. He wanted her to just be Rey and to create a new Jedi temple in Tatooine and train the new order, which would have been called the Skywalkers. That was his whole thing. He didn't want her to be a Skywalker. He wanted her to train on the next generation of Jedi or Force users to be under the surname of Skywalker. They were supposed to be called Skywalker, and that was supposed to be, what he wanted the ending to be. And the same with the yellow lightsaber, or it's not even, it's white gold. That's what they're calling it now. It looks yellow.
White gold.
White.
Yellow.
We know the only other yellow lightsaber in canon were the temple guards. So if you want to go back to canon, as far as the new canon or whatever, it's like they're the only other ones that were the temple guards. And the I guess the part of it where it was, homage to the temple guard, she's supposed to be the keeper of the light side of the Force. She's protecting it. That's why her saber turned yellow, because now, after when Disney retconned all of the crystals are clear ever since the Clone Wars. You find a crystal, it's not a color. It becomes a color when the Force user uses it, because Ahsoka took 2 red crystals from the Inquisitors and she purified it with the Force, the light side of the Force, which made them pure white.
Oh, my Lord.
She had no affiliation.
Yeah, the Force bleach. She Force bleached them. Rich,
but she wasn't a Jedi,
I've got Rich.
so
I've got Rich Sangello here. He says they should have gone 1,000 years forward. Wouldn't that be something amazing? If they, because in this article right here, let me just read you a little part that just gets me a little angry, because it says, this isn't the. It's the second paragraph that makes me angry, but this I'm going to read the paragraph here. It says, instead of the Sith, the main threats come from the scum and villainy found on the fringe outposts that do not abide Republic law. In these Old West-inspired frontier lands, the Jedi become almost like Texas Rangers. The big bads are the Nil, a group of antagonists that Jennifer Heddle, executive editor at Lucasfilm Publishing, describes as Space Vikings. Now, here's the part that makes me mad. We are so excited to be opening up such a rich, fertile era for our authors to explore, says Kathleen Kennedy in a statement. 250 years before Luke Skywalker is not a rich, fertile area to explore. It's supposed to be a boring, wasteland of not much happening to make the story of Yoda and what Yoda said the importance of Luke is so important because it's so rare. You know, you can't say that like, oh, there's adventures all the time. Like, you know, just 200 years ago, these other Jedi went through just a mega adventure. Like, it's supposed to be, they were not doing much. And then Palpatine came along and decided how to wrangle everything to become his. And then it's up to Luke and his sister to try to get it all back to normal, or to try to get it back to, get control away from the Sith, who hasn't been seen in 1,000 years. That's what we're led to believe. So here, it's not supposed to be the Sith. It's supposed to be this group called Nihil, Nile maybe. But, you know, they're just grabbing these things from the EU. It's like there's this, isn't there one of the Darth Crate's henchmen called Darth Nihil?
Yep, Nihilist.
And it's like, what are they doing here? So they're cherry picking a little name that they thought was cool, making it into some space Vikings that they're saying Jedi have to fight. What did you say, Gabe?
I don't know. I think it's kind of silly. I mean, they're also doing supposedly a after show of Rey in the future, and it's supposed to be animated, where she gets married and has children and starts training the new generation of light users, Jedi, Skywalker, whatever they're going to try to call them, and trying to show those things. And they're also going to do a Vader series. They're talking about bringing Hayden Christensen back as a younger Vader and exploring a miniseries with him, where they're talking about like what he did and in between.
Well, they missed the boat with Hayden Christensen. They should have got him back as some kind of ghost in Episode 7. It only makes sense. It's the only reason.
It was supposed to be, but Kathleen Kennedy took him out. Colin Trevorrow wrote an awesome script. He had so much stuff going on. There was even supposed to be somebody more powerful than Plagueis and Palpatine that was pulling all the strings. And he had written that part in. He had written the Acolyte in. He had written in Hayden Christensen's Force Ghost. He was supposed to come back in as an evil one and as the light one. He was supposed to come to Ben Solo when he was Kylo Ren and talk to him in a Force vision. And he was also supposed to be a Force Ghost and talk to Rey. I mean, so there was a whole part where he was supposed to be in it, and they totally decimated him. But then at the end of the movie of The Rise of Skywalker, it destroys the whole thing of saying he was the chosen one, because now they're saying there's multiple chosen ones. It's like Neo being in the Matrix saying, well, you're the sixth chosen one. You're the one. You can't be the one. How can you be the chosen one if there's only one? It's like Highlander. There can only be one, right? How can there be multiple chosen ones now? And that's where they're shooting themselves in the foot. Because now it's like, if Lucas wasn't dead, he'd be rolling around in his grave right now going like, what the, you just totally destroyed my whole story of having this guy as the chosen one. And even the prequels alluded up to that being the chosen one and having, the spectacular ending of Return of the Jedi. And then having this, I don't even want to call it a train wreck of The Rise of Skywalker, just kind of like retconning everything that Lucas did. It's like, what are you people doing? I mean, their biggest thing to me that bothered me is the fact that they didn't just hire a writing team to just write all three movies and got either one director, but at least if they had one, script that went through all three movies that would make sense. They had all the time to do it. It didn't matter who directed it, because Rian Johnson.
They pretended like they were under the gun with the timing. Yeah, they wanted to do it in 2 years.
They rushed them. They should have did it every 3 years. And if they're smart, they should have did it every 3 years like they did with the originals. And, instead of trying to just do a cash grab and say, oh, well, we got to make back our money, they could have made back their money 10 times as much if they put a little bit more thought into it and didn't have Kathleen Kennedy ruining all this, with their poor decision making. I mean, honestly, she didn't do anything except produce, and she might have played like one dancing girl in the Temple of Doom. So really, she was like, there wasn't even their understudy. She was a lackey. She was a producer that basically was probably somebody's, I don't know, lay or something. And then, she got into the part where she became head of Lucasfilm. And it's like, why would you put somebody that doesn't know or isn't a fan as head of Lucasfilm?
Well, she flat out lied to people, and she's in the interviews telling Lucas to his face that she's a fan and that she loves Star Wars and she will take care of the characters.
She destroyed them.
I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna do a video where I'm gonna go over this because this is like so disgusting that she lied directly to Lucas and to all of us to say that she's a fan, and then you have other footage of her laughing and saying, no, she's not a fan. She doesn't care about Star Wars. She basically only watched it once, and she doesn't care about it. These people are incredible liars, and they'll do anything they can to claw and scratch their way to the top. Just amazingly, when they get to the top, instead of just resting on their laurels, they actually decided to thwart and hurt all this stuff that they claimed to be a fan of before. Listen to what Steve says here. Seeing Anakin return as a Force ghost and talk to Kylo Ren, or see him confront Palpatine as a Force ghost prior to Rey confronting him, were probably the two things I wanted to see most. And let me tell you, Steve, these were the things that you had to have in the movie. You had to have Anakin as a Force ghost in Episode 7. You had to have 60 seconds of that. You had to, or this wasn't going to work. And we all saw what happened. The only person in the universe who had a right to come in as a Force ghost, to come into the movie at any time to talk to Kylo Ren, the one that had to do it. It wasn't Han Solo, and it wasn't the mom, and it was the one he admired most. Right. And what are they doing as a Force ghost if they're not putting him in when later they even have Han Solo appear as a mirage or as some kind of mental image? It was so incredibly hurtful to the narrative that it's actually 100% unforgivable, and it ruins the entire first movie, and it seals the fate of the second movie when they kill Luke, because that means that there's really no hope to have a true depiction of the Luke character. There was no way to undo it, because as Episode 8 goes along and breaking down Luke, normally in a movie or in a story, when the hero is broken down, we will eventually see them rise back up again. I don't feel like that's what happened. We saw another Force overdose, and have Anakin not come in there either, and then to see the third movie, and if you guys tell me, I didn't see the first hour, but if you guys tell me that Anakin still doesn't come into the picture, but yeah, he's still part of the narrative. Even the trailer of the movie shows Kylo and Rey with their swords, that they shatter a Darth Vader statue. He's part of the movie. What is he doing? Is he on a quarantine? Is he in Hawaii? Is he in Force?
In purgatory,
is he in
judgment?
Is he in Force Cancun? Like, where is he?
She took him out of it. He was already had seen shot. He was supposed to be in, like I said, he was supposed to be a Force ghost as Vader and as Anakin to appear to Ben and Rey, and he was supposed to be a big part of this movie. That's why there was 4 hours and 20 minutes of footage that was shot that they could have made 2 movies out of. And the fact of the matter is, because she hated Hayden Christensen, he only had one line in the whole movie, and that was at the end. Just like Qui-Gon, just like Ahsoka, just like...
but that was total garbage that we can't count, in my opinion, anything that was said in those ethereal voices, because it's unexplained, it's unknown, it's unconfigurable when you hear it. How is somebody, Harris, did you know what you were listening to? You can't hear me talk, and you're supposed to hear
No.
Yoda and Ahsoka.
I'll be honest with you. When I watched the film, I watched it with a hearing device, and I still missed out. My hearing's not great anymore, and I would have to go back and watch that. And that's one thing I pointed out before. When I watch with closed captions on, all that it'll say like
the person's name.
Mystical Anakin voice
Right.
says. You know what I mean? So it tells you what they're
Who's
actually
talking.
saying. But if there's a huge possibility that I missed that, and even people that have great hearing would miss that. It's so buried in the mix.
Yeah, well,
underneath of it all.
Let me just tell you, when you go back and watch it, Gabe, tell me if it takes you out of your Oculus when you have the subtitles up at the end.
When you're trying to lose yourself in the moment of Rise of Skywalker in the Oculus Rift, and then you have to have the words up. Ahsoka says.
I don't have a choice, unfortunately.
Could you hear
Yeah.
It's either that or I miss everything.
Hey, on the Oculus, could you hear that? Like, could you distinguish the voices?
I don't think he did it yet. I don't think he heard it yet, right?
Yeah, I heard, but you know what? I didn't pay mind because even in the movie, I couldn't tell some of those. You know.
Yeah.
Well, it's
There's
because
so many voices going on.
I know, it's so
I mean, I heard Mace, I heard Yoda, I heard Luke, I heard a couple that were particularly distinctive that but there was others. I didn't even know Ahsoka was supposed to be in there. I'm like, when did she die and become Force Ghost? I didn't know she died. You know, I'm like, I don't.
She did die. Well, here's the other thing. Okay, so this is the other thing that totally blows open Star Wars universe. So, have you guys ever watched Rebels?
Yep.
All right, so you know how they started talking about interdimensional and time
Yeah,
travel.
they killed her off, and then what's his
Brought
name?
her back.
They found her
Well,
in that alternate like reality thing.
Right, so she's still alive in some ways. So the old Ahsoka is almost like an aberration of who she is. Technically, she's dead because she died in
Ahsoka is the prequel trilogy. Like it is the OT. Ahsoka is the OT.
Right.
They resurrected it. They stomped on it. They buried it. They peed on its grave. They resurrected it again through time travel. They keep kicking it while it's down. They keep resurrecting it back up again when they need another $1 billion. Ahsoka is like the symbol of the OT, like what they keep doing with it.
Right.
It's
I get
just
you.
crazy what they're
I
trying
get
to
it.
do with just like Ahsoka
I
is
per
a
se,
puppet.
I do love the Ahsoka character, and I hope they continue on. And to be honest with you, like Bill, you and I have talked about this in the past. Kathleen Kennedy wanted to push the whole female agenda.
Right.
I mean, there's a perfect character.
Right.
I mean, they already had her, but they didn't put, in my opinion, enough energies into it to, hopefully now, yes, I got my fill in the last season of Clone Wars, which I've been watching. And I hope they really do her justice next year in the Mandalorian. I hope to see a lot of her. I love her. I think she's a great character. She's strong. She's got energy. She knows how to use it. She's morally sound. And I'd like to see more Ahsoka for myself in the future.
I couldn't be happier that they selected Rosario Dawson. I've loved Rosario Dawson for 20 years. I think she's fantastic. I really can't believe they.
I can't wait to see her in the makeup
thought of that. Yeah, like that.
Well,
that
what
was
do
a
you guys
great
think at the end
casting,
of the
I
Mandalorian? I mean, with the Darksaber, with the Moth.
Love the Mandalorian.
Huh?
Thought it was great. Thought the storyline was
that
awesome.
blew my mind, especially when he came out with the Darksaber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new Moth. He was a Moth. And did you notice too, in the Rise of Skywalker and the Mandalorian, the same guy who was, I don't know if he was a general or whatever he was in both the Mandalorian and he was in the Rise of Skywalker. And he gets killed at the very end. Remember in the Rise of Skywalker, but he was actually in the Mandalorian. He was the guy who put the hit on Baby Yoda. He was trying to get him back. You know what I'm talking about? That's the same guy. The cloner. He's either a cloner or he. Remember how
the doctor guy, not the doctor guy, but the guy put up the other guy.
The Imperial guy,
Yeah.
the guy who was still loyal to the Sith. He was still loyal to the Palpatine, because even Palpatine says there are still Sith loyalists or Imperial loyalists that were there. But the very end of the Rise of Skywalker 2, it's like he was all the Sith and Rey became all the Jedi. It's like, what? You know, that to me was like one of the stupidest things.
Such garbage.
That was one of the
Such
stupidest
garbage.
things they
So
could have ever
reach.
done with
What
Star
a
Wars.
reach.
And how do you kill somebody with just 2 lightsabers? It's like the most powerful Sith being in the whole Star Wars universe, and you know he gets killed by 2 lightsabers. It's like, okay.
That was so bad.
I guess.
Yeah, like
I
caught that last hour of the movie, and that was a bad moment. Although Palpatine looked really cool when there was like light and photo flashes that were, or like lightning flashes that were going on all around him. Like his face looked. I was about to have a seizure. I was like, this is why there's a seizure warning. This looks crazy.
I would have
This
been.
looks nutty.
You know what I would have really liked to see him? I would like to see him pull out his double lightsabers and fight them as when he.
That's
when
what
he
I thought. I thought he
trained
was gonna bust out his
his
lightsabers and start, you know,
I
kicking
thought he
ass.
was gonna rip out the dual Sids and come out and like, you know, almost kill Rey. That would have been
The whole time he was channeling Storm from the X-Men.
Yeah, and then it would have been cool, you know, almost killing Rey and then have Ben at the last moment come and kill him or something. That would have been cool. That would have been cool with them. I mean, they could have done so much better, you know, with that ending. It was so stupid. I mean, it was like the worst ending ever. I just was so like, I don't know. I was just mad.
I went in wanting to like it, and I also I don't know. I was a big hater of the last movie, and I kind of wanted to like it. So for me, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I feel you guys. I mean, it was crazy.
It was stupid. I'm sorry. It was just straight up stupid. I mean,
it was stupid.
It was stupid.
That's
I mean, what else can I say? I mean, just saying, being honest.
No, I feel you.
You know, because I know the 4 of us could have wrote a better Star Wars trilogy. I'm telling you, you guys could have came up with the lightsabers, and the 4 of us, between the 4 of us, could have made a freaking awesome story. I mean, you know, I mean, it's a fact that, okay, yeah, you bring in Rey, but it's like the whole characterization of the movies, I felt nothing for these people in the first movie.
Yeah, like that's why when I hear you talking about Rey should have done this and Kylo should have done that, it's almost like I want to say, I don't want to be rude, but I want to say, Bill, I don't even care. Like what does it matter if Rey does a cool flip if we don't give a shit about Rey?
Right, that's
like,
what I'm saying. I don't care.
You know, like she didn't do anything to earn anybody's anything. Like the only thing she did was some kind-hearted stuff, like when she goes to see Luke. I felt like she's kind of tender and she kind of patient with Luke and stuff like that, because Luke was being a total jerk, like a non-Luke, like what they call Jake Skywalker. That wasn't Luke, right? That was like, they should have said that was a clone of Luke, like, haha, we tricked you, this is a Palpatine trick, this is a clone that we made that like sucks, and we sent him to that planet because he was annoying the shit out of everybody. Nobody could handle. So we sunk his ship. It looks like the real Luke ship. We sunk his ship. He can't get it out, and he's stuck there because he's an annoying clone. That would have made more sense. You know, it's like the people that they pulled from the old stuff they killed or made look silly. And at least from the part of Rise of Skywalker that I saw, the second half was like Leia was acting very strange, like she was on drugs and she was like having a hard time walking and living. But when I asked my friends, I saw the first half, I said, what happened in the first half to display some kind of clues? Like, what did Leia say? Like, I have leukemia or I got sick. What happened? No, like nothing. No one said anything, but she's just like limping. And then when they said at the end to the characters, Chewie and Poe, and I think maybe Rey was there, someone walked up. It was like one of the women in the Resistance walked up and was like, listen, she's gone. And everyone like fell to their knees and cried or whatever. But it's like, no one got confirmation. First of all, what are you talking about? Who's gone? Leia? Like, what's wrong with, like, how is they expected so much out of the audience. Like, they expected the audience was part of the writing room, that we know all the BS that you guys had in the background of the writing room. We cataloged it, we loved it, and we're along for the ride. But that's not the case. Like, we don't know, assume we don't know any of this stuff. You're supposed to put it into the story. Like, we don't want to go to the comic book. We don't want to go to the graphic novel. We don't want to go to the magazine. We don't want to go to the video game. We don't want to go to the novel. We want to come to the movie and get 100% enjoyment out of what we can from the movie. Don't send me to the novel. Don't send me 1999 Barnes and Noble to go to the Barnes and Noble with, you know, to buy the book. Don't send me to the comic shop, even though I love comics. You know, I don't want to get anything from that either.
All we wanted was a good story.
Don't send me to the toy shop. Yeah, just
it should have been
make the
movies.
movie.
It should have been 2 movies. It would have explained everything. And the way that Colin Trevorrow...
They would have taken the time to do it.
That's what... But they fired Colin Trevorrow. They stole some of his ideas. They destroyed all his ideas. And they fired him. And it was left up to
Mundo is here. What's going on, Mundo?
Abrams was left at the, you know, pretty much.
Ryan Johnson ruined her character, says Rich. She had some intriguing qualities after The Force Awakens. Yeah, like, you know what? I thought the endearing part of The Force Awakens was when I was telling Gabe the other day, or I was telling somebody the other day that you know, when she was eating, when they showed her eating and preparing her food and living alone, this kind of started, it was a good introduction. It was like, okay, she had a little tune. John Williams wrote her a little riff. It sounded good. She looked like she was having a decent time over there, living alone and stuff like that. And then things started to go a little awry. You know, she said she stopped the scavenger from taking a droid who was like apparently a garbage droid who was wandering around, a scavenger just like her. She's supposed to be a scavenger too. He's taking the droid, and she goes, no, you can't take the droid. Oh, he has no heart. He's taking. What are you talking about? You're a scavenger too. And then so now she's got the droid, but she doesn't want the droid. Like, the droid is like, can I stay overnight? And she's like, no. You can't stay. Why?
Go away.
Why? Like, what's he gonna eat your food? Like, he doesn't want anything. He just wants to hang out. And then when you find out the next day that the droid is worth like 60 portions, and you still like don't want the droid, but you don't want to sell the droid back, things started to go a little goofy. It's like when you start to mess with our logic, it just started to get goofy, you know, and it's right there in the beginning too. We're like, whoa, wait a second here. And then the whole thing with John Boyega's got the jacket on, and he's there, and now she's on the droid's side because she can communicate with the droid, and the droid is saying, you got the jacket, so he's hitting him with, you know, all this. It got very goofy. It got very, very goofy.
Because you didn't know what to
right
do with
there.
the characters. Here, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like you introduced these three new characters that were supposed to be Luke, Han, and Leia, and they were trying to recapture that in this, where they just rehashed New Hope, but instead of doing justice, they should have had a reunion between Luke, Han, and Leia before, you know, Leia died and Luke died. Luke should have fought physically, I think, in The Last Jedi. And it would have been better going out physically, like, you know, or crushing these walkers with the Force. How cool would that have been if he would have just like used the Force and took both the walkers and like threw them in the air and then smashed them together? Like, that's how powerful he was in the EU. And supposedly they're supposed to make a young.
He could have knocked him over like dominoes,
right?
And maybe
he could have easily, if he was the EU Luke, he could have just like boom, you know, and had this like awesome standoff with Kylo Ren. I mean, it would.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, if this was the real Luke, he wouldn't have let it got to that point, because by that point, remember, they had to like beg him to come and help, and why was he hiding and all that stuff? What a mistake it was not to show him in the first movie.
They were going to make another explanation of why he was the way he was by doing a young Luke miniseries. And they were talking about getting Sebastian.
Oh my God!
Stan.
Another place we have to go.
Well, they want to get Sebastian Stan.
Like, go find out why Luke is not Luke anymore.
And they stole again the EU, where he supposedly got married and had a kid, and somehow his wife and the kid get killed, and that's why he ended up being the way he is in The Last Jedi. They're trying to explain that, why he was that way. And that's
what would have been
why do you have to keep explaining things? Why couldn't you just explain it in the freaking
right?
movie?
Like if in the movie you showed Kylo Ren, if we are dealing with these characters that they came up with, which I don't agree with dealing with them because they are garbage, but I will say if we are dealing with them and we have Kylo Ren come in the first movie, he should nearly kill Rey.
Yeah,
he should take off like 3 of her limbs or something, right?
Exactly.
Honest to God. It should be PG-13 because let me tell you why I say this. The reason why I say this is because if you were going to remake episode 4 and you want to make A New Hope again, but you want to have a female lead character and you want to have it be about her and she's going to be the star of it, you're going to have to understand what Star Wars is. Star Wars is about the stakes. The stakes are so effing high and the bad guys have such an advantage. That's what Star Wars is about. The bad guys have the Death Star and the good guys have a teenager. That's it. That's all they have. They have a teenager and a little rickety spaceship that they say is garbage. It's like a 50-year-old spaceship. They got 9 of them. And they got like 6 pilots. They don't even have enough pilots. They got a couple pilots. They're going to send them in, and that's all they got. And they got this one last hope, and it's called the New Hope. That's all they got. So if you want to do that again, you have to raise the stakes. To raise the stakes, you have to have a bad guy worse than Darth Vader. Okay, so let's say you're going to call him Kylo Ren. You're going to have him in Episode 7. What's going to have to happen here is Kylo Ren's going to have to kill Finn. Sorry, like if you're not going to make Finn a Jedi, which I think he should have been a Jedi, he should have been a Jedi.
He's Force sensitive now.
Yeah, well, that was basically an in-movie retcon, an along the ride retcon, like from episode 7 to 9 retcon. So when you have to raise the stakes, so you have to have Kylo Ren, maybe he thinks he killed Finn, but again he swiped his back, maybe he severed his spinal cord, but you have to have him destroy Rey. In the first movie, wipe the floor with her, right? So she's scared. She goes to find Luke Skywalker. Now we're in the second movie. Luke Skywalker comes down because we're playing along here and we're pretending like we care about these characters because we're starting to care about them because now things are getting hot and heavy, right? Because like Kylo is a real bad guy now because Rey is in surgery. She's getting a new leg, right?
Right.
She's getting a new leg. So now the second movie comes out. We got Rey back. And Rey is part robot. So she starts to have something, as the audience, we start to wonder about her. Hey, Darth Vader was part robot. What's going to happen when Rey is part robot, right? So we got that in the back of our mind. Now she's afraid of Kylo because Kylo destroyed her. Cut her in half, and she's half robot, right? So she's scared. She goes for Luke Skywalker. She finds Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker comes in. Now we're in episode 8, Playground on Quate. Or is that what it is? Quate or whatever that planet is with the the one with the sand, right? And when they walk over not the sand, with the salt. So when they walk over the salt, it's red.
Yeah.
Right, so now they got all the walkers around Luke. He destroys the walkers, right? So here's where it gets interesting because Luke is very powerful, like he was in the expanded universe in this movie that I'm writing right now. So he destroys the AT-ATs, all of them, like 14 of them, in 2 seconds, right? Everyone's stunned and everyone's like, "We're effed."
Right.
Kylo's like, "Wait a second, bro." He tells the other guy, tells Domhnall Gleeson, like, "Listen, fly me down there." So he takes a little ship, he flies him down there, he faces off against Luke, and guess what? He ruins Luke. He ruins Luke. Yeah, so now people are like, oh my God. Because like Luke just had a display of power that everyone's like, holy F, like look what Luke can do. But then Kylo come down and kill him. So people are like, oh my God, Kylo beat up Rey. There's no chance there. Rey was studying under Luke, and look, now Luke's dead. Now we're going into episode 9 with a real awful villain. Even if he had killed his boss, like let's say he kills Snoke, that just makes him more badass, right? Like, so maybe we show Snoke as some kind of badass, like we saw.
He should have never took his helmet off in the first movie.
he shouldn't have taken his helmet off throughout. Basically, maybe a certain time or two to get some kind of reveal across that would have been powerful, you know. But we would have been heading into the movie with a half robot girl who has low confidence. She's got a few friends, like maybe one's got a severed spinal cord. She might have, you know, Chewie back there or whatever. But really down in the dumps, and this is when we could have, you know, if you want to have these Force Ghost people come in, like these Darth Vader, Anakin type people, maybe it starts to make sense for him to be talking to Kylo at these moments and, you know, telling him how he's wrong or whatever. You start,
I was wrong.
You start to have Luke appear. Yeah, like you start to have Luke come in at that point too and say, like, look, I'm a Force Ghost too. Let me try to talk you out of this. Maybe he's not hearing anything of it. You can kind of take it from there. But I actually don't agree with, you know, the characters that they had in the first place. I think it should have been more of an expansive cast with a lot of people where you wondered, like, who was going to, like, when you start out the movie with 3 people, you're pigeonholed, you know?
Right.
Like, if you kill one of the people or 2 of the people, you're really pigeonholed now. But if you start out with 9 or 13 characters, like you say, like, listen, any of these people they're potentials. Like, any of these people are potentials. They could be like the One, or they could be like Rey. You know, they could be like the Anakin.
What happened with the Knights of Ren? They were like a boy band. All they were like, you know, basically like, hey, you know, we're here. And we're just going to be like, yo, what's up? And like, we don't do nothing. We're like the vegetables that don't do nothing.
Right,
so,
and they were talked up a lot, and
they
when you
like,
have Kylo Ren, who
the baddest of the bad,
right, and Kylo Ren got showed up like at every stage. Kylo Ren got showed up,
and I'll tell you why. Because
then he beats them up,
and she wanted to basically put men in their place and say that men are bad and men are evil and women are good and women are powerful and we don't need men.
Yeah, they took the power away from the Knights of Ren because the Knights of Ren should have come in. They should have slapped some babies against the wall. They should have kicked some pregnant people, and they could have really been a disaster. You'd have been like, listen, these Knights of Ren are a disaster. We got to stop them.
You got a dark side, Ant. You got a dark side, Anthony.
You got to show people why these characters are evil. Like, we didn't see them even take a piece of. They didn't even take a lollipop from a child. Like, they didn't do anything. They just appeared, and Kylo started hitting them with a stick, and everyone's like, wait. We didn't know anything about those people.
I don't even think he had a stick. I think he just showed up and he was trying to force them, like. He was just like fighting a melee style because he threw a stick in the water.
I think Rey transported her like a new force power transported her lightsaber to his grip.
It did.
And
he gave her the lightsaber. He gave him Anakin's lightsaber, which was kind of interesting. But the whole thing with that was like, I don't know. They missed so many opportunities, you know, in the sequel. I just think it was just such a train wreck that I don't even know how, other than Mandalorian, and I don't know how they're going to recover from this, because diehard fans like the 4 of us.
I'll tell you, I think this is how we get out of this, you guys. This is how we get out of this, because, you know, it seemed like very concrete, right? It's like Disney bought Star Wars in 2012, 2013, 2014, whatever it was. And it seemed very concrete. The reason why George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney in the first place was because he thought of them as very concrete. This company ain't going anywhere. This company knows how to deal with cartoons. This company knows how to deal with intellectual properties and how to make a successful children's franchise work. Well, so he's like, this company is never going away.
With Marvel was
like they had acquired Marvel. It was 3 or 4 years into that endeavor, so they had seen Iron Man 1 and 2. They had seen Captain America. They said, Disney's starting to know what they're doing with the superhero stuff, and they own all these properties, and Disney's not going anywhere. Now, fast forward a few years and a few months to the day where we are today. Disney just borrowed $6 billion to try to save itself from this problem. They run theme parks and no one's allowed to leave their house. They have movies and no one's allowed to go to the movies. They have properties and movies that are being made at this moment that have been halted and frozen They're losing $30 million a day. How long can that go on for that way? And when it changes, when things reopen up, how fast and how fluid can the parks reopen up? Because what I suggest to do is to have a new person, a new group. Maybe it's George Lucas. Maybe he comes in and says, I'll take it back. Listen, you guys keep the park side of it. You guys keep the Star Wars rides. Anytime we make a new movie, you can have a new ride based on it. You keep all the theme park revenue and theme park licenses for Star Wars from this point going forward. Now, nobody knows if there is going to be theme parks and stuff the way it was before. I was just in Universal Studios in December and January, you know, for the first time. I'd never been to Disney World or anything before. And as you can imagine, it is everyone's touching everything, you know. Everyone is close together, waiting in line, waiting in an hour-long line, back to back. I don't know how that's going to work. Like, you know, when you're going to have different rules for probably food preparation, different rules for the way people have to be, and you have to stuff all these people into the park to make the money, because that's what they've been telling us, right? So they have to like have a lot of people in the park, or else they're like not going to make their money. I'm just not sure, like, if we're going to see this same landscape in 6 months. Maybe if Apple buys Disney, like has been rumored, that's going to be a new owner. What if they take this series, if somebody's in the know as the new owner, if somebody's in the know and they know the problems here, I mean, I'm looking into the future. I don't know what's going to happen, but what if they canceled this shit? So I think that's possible. You know, with all the remakes, they're talking about remaking Harry Potter. Why would you do that? Those movies are really, really nice to watch.
I love the Harry Potter flicks. I think it's too soon for that.
Right.
I don't think
it's like, but there's always talk, and there's always these remakes being dished out.
Who wants to redo Harry Potter? Disney?
They could no, I don't know, but
whoever. I think it's too soon.
I'm just using it as an example, as they could redo eventually episode 7, 8, and 9, or if not redo it, just tell us as loyal fans that those were canceled and they're some kind of Marvel what if series, and they don't count as far as being the real Star Wars, because it just doesn't seem like it is. Those characters weren't themselves. Like, Leia was all rickety and not strong. And Leia was the strongest one, in my opinion, back in the day. Yeah. I thought she had everyone beat. Yeah. As far as, like, you know, she was the leader, I thought. She was giving people orders. She had everybody following her. She was the leader of the rebellion, you know. She had all the plans. As soon as she got Obi-Wan to help, she knew that was the last chance. She made it all happen. Like, talk about a New Hope. Who made a New Hope happen? It was Leia, right? Yeah, Leia. She sent the message. She had the insight. She had the training from her father to be like, listen, here's all the political secrets I got. And there's this one political, her adoptive father, like, was like, at some point must have been like, listen, I got one secret that's going to blow your top. And when you need to pull this card, it better be the darkest hour. It better be the darkest hour that you ever saw. And when you need to pull this card, you know, this guy will come and help. And, you know, we had that sentiment, like, look at the scenes that they just inferred. And, like, that stuff that's in our mind, like simple lines like Obi-Wan had about the dark times. You know, it puts a whole story in your mind. It puts a whole you know, it boosts your
creates
imagination.
A lot of mystery.
It's like a lot of mystery while giving you a few clues and let your mind fill in the rest. And you're like, whoa. You know, when Darth Vader's helmet comes down in episode 5, and you realize that he's got all these scars and stuff, and your mind kind of goes wild, just wondering what could have happened to him in the past. What did they do to each other? What did they do to each other, you know?
Yeah. What do you call it? Like, if they used Basila's power, you know, how she had that one power with that
Battle
record,
meditation, right?
battle meditation.
Ooh,
Imagine
that was
Leia-
incredible. Oh, the way that they could do that in a movie. Ooh, Bill, that's incredible. The way that they could have done that in a movie, like if Leia was like
if
that
she
talented.
did that in the Rise of
Oh,
Skywalker,
they couldn't lose. They couldn't lose. Like if they had her, if they had a whole new episode 7, 8, 9
Yep.
with what Bill just said, like they would have pumped up. Like imagine kicking the whole episode 7 off with 1,000 ships appear out of light speed, New Republic ships
Yep.
that just destroy some kind of pirate operation of like 102 ships.
Like she was able to bring back
because she
Star
has with like 0 losses because of this power. And if you know what this power is from the expanded universe, is battle meditation. It's like one Jedi. It's like what they say Palpatine was kind of using
to
and
control both sides of the
the engagement to kind of weaken the opponent's side, but also enhance. It's it's almost like it's if you gave meth to like everybody on your side, but it was like a controlled, focused type of meth, and you gave like some kind of downer to everybody on the other side, and that's
what Lucas wanted to do with the sequels. He wanted to bring back to their origins of the wills. So do you guys know anything about the wills, about the father, the son, and the daughter? And Anakin in the Clone Wars, they wanted him to become the new father because he was supposed to be the chosen one to bring the balance back. And the father was the only one holding the balance because the son was the epitome of the dark and the daughter was the epitome of the light. So if you saw that episode in the Clone Wars, he was supposed to be the one to bring that balance back by becoming the father. And they wanted him to be, in that scenario, and they wanted to explore how the Force started, and they wanted to explore the genesis of the wills, and that's what Lucas wanted to do with these prequels and go back to square one to bring all of this like stuff that the myth and all the lore back into the Star Wars universe, and by going back to square one and saying, hey, let's go back to the genesis of it. Where did the Force come from? Where did the beings that created this? And that's when they went back, with the wills, and that was supposed to be his idea of wanting to, explore that and eventually introduce those new characters, but also, bring back, the original cast in a sense to have that reunion, but also be a part of passing the baton. So the newer movies like episode 10 could have been, passing the baton to Rey or whomever. But I thought it would have been cooler if they would have started off Ben being good, being trained by Luke, him being, the new master of the good side, Rey coming out being, the evil, because if she was a Palpatine, it would have made more sense, and, it just would have been a totally different movie. It would have been a totally different story.
Yeah, like I kind of think too that if they brought in the Jedi Academy a little more. I mean, we stepped into episode 7 where apparently the Jedi Academy had been destroyed, whatever Luke had made with whatever his 12 or 14 students that he may have had or whatever. What if we stepped into a put us however many years it was supposed to be, 30 years later? I would have imagined there would be some kind of accelerated school there where they would have, let's say there's 100 people in the Jedi Academy, some fully fledged Jedi Knights, maybe a couple masters that Luke had made, maybe even 1 or 2 that Luke would have been like, yo, I think that dude or that chick is better than me. Like he may have found some people that are like excelente, and he has some of these people, right? And you're watching almost like a Hogwarts situation. You remember the flashbacks in the Harry Potter movie to when Voldemort was like in Hogwarts, and it's
when he was young, Tom Riddle.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see. I would have liked to see more of that. They showed a little bit of it where it was kind of deceptive. It was deception. You remember they wanted, like, it was Voldemort pulling the strings back when he was a child, basically. Right. So he frames Hagrid, and he sends Hagrid. He gets Hagrid ejected out of the school, expelled, and it's all these. It's just a couple minutes of the movie, and it's very interesting. What if in this series they had the Jedi Academy? It looks like it's almost a squeaky clean, nicely run machine by Luke. Maybe his sister is a diplomat. She comes in for some special stuff every now and again. You know, basically we're kind of watching the school under its daily operation, but we start to see one of the evil students with doing a deception thing here and a little thing there, and it eventually culminates to
Sith holocron. That would have been cool.
maybe it gets tainted a little bit.
Start dabbling in the dark
Maybe they were
side.
already susceptible to that, so the Sith holocron attached themselves to that person because they knew. Because you know how, like, when in a ghost movie, you know, they say in a ghost movie that the ghost is going to like attack the weakest one in the family.
Right.
You know, so like sometimes it's like The Conjuring, and it's the little girl in the house. Like she's the one who's lonely, so the ghost focuses on her, and that's what in the EU stories, what the ghosts of all these older Sith would do when they would come upon a weak or one of the weaker students, or one of the students that they thought was more powerful. They tried to infiltrate one of the more powerful students, so that they could get them to do their bidding or to become evil and to have a resurgence.
That's what Palpatine did to Anakin, you know, and it would have been cooler if let's just say that, okay, you know, Luke trained the Knights of Ren or whatever. That was the New Order, okay? And, you know, they were all good, and Kylo stumbled upon, you know, a holocron. And, you know, he wasn't the best student. And all of a sudden, like, he finds this holocron.
Starts accelerating, maybe.
Yeah, and he starts accelerating. They're wondering
and maybe
why.
Luke is asking him questions like, how did you, like maybe at first he's like, great job.
Right.
But then after a while, he's like, something's going on here. You know, maybe it takes a whole movie to kind of get there. And then in the second movie, maybe because what
then
we wanted to see in the what I wanted to see in the prequels would have been a nice place to go here, which is to kind of show more of a situation in the school, in the Jedi training, where you see a student being or going down a path of evil.
Exactly.
And you see a student maybe at one point kill somebody. Maybe it's accidentally, maybe it's on purpose, but it just sets them farther along on that path that we get to see for the first time, really. Because, you know, even in the prequels, we saw somebody go bad right in front of our eyes. But as you guys know, it was a little herky jerky. You know, it wasn't so smooth. I didn't think, you know, it was a big turn at the end, right? When, like, yeah, he killed some sand people and stuff, but then at the end, it doesn't take much for the bad guy to turn him. It didn't seem like.
Well, after he killed the youngling, I mean, you know, he rose and he saw his eyes turn yellow, and I mean, that's when you knew he was, you know, total dark side. I mean, he was force choking his wife. He was totally gone after that. I mean, that would have been cool seeing Ben doing that, like totally gone. I mean, that would have made more sense of him killing Han, you know, and you know, and then
especially if we could have seen some scenes of like maybe what we saw in The Last Jedi, of some flashbacks,
right?
Kylo as a teenager,
right?
Because I thought Kylo, Adam Driver as a selection to play Kylo Ren was too aged up, in my opinion. That was too aged up. Like you got a 30-something-year-old main character here who's acting like a teenager. It was very odd to say that this person who's conflicted, and, you know, normally I think in a normal way a man's life goes is usually starting around 30, they usually kind of know who they are, right? It's usually everyone always tells you when you're in your 20s, oh, don't worry, you're just figuring yourself out. Oh, don't worry, you're just figuring things out. But when you display to me somebody who appears to be 33 or 34 to me, and to say that they're in such a turmoil and stuff like that, it could have been believed and all that if everything else led us down that way, if everything else was done at, you know, a high level. But since so many things were lacking, that was just one other thing that was on the weird side.
Well, you know what would be cool too? if like Ben, was actually the master, and they brought Rey in as a Padawan, and Rey started maybe dabbling with the dark side. She found the holocron and turned on him. I mean, that would have been
Right.
another.
And it would have been very interesting too if you have that scenario where right at first, right when Rey starts to delve into that dark magic, that people don't necessarily notice the negatives right at first, right? So maybe she starts to get praised by the teachers and by Luke, and Kylo begins to get a jealousy.
Yeah.
Like, wait, this person's so new. And then when he finds out and she's still getting praised, but now Kylo is the only one that knows where she's getting this advantage from. And then he's conflicted on whether or not to reveal to the teachers, to Luke, where she's getting, because he doesn't want to seem like super jealous, right? Because he's already maybe been called out as jealous by somebody by this time.
Because maybe she's surpassing him in his powers.
Right.
Yeah,
and then once it comes out that she's using,
supposed to be the Padawan.
Right, and then maybe as it starts to get closer to the adults figuring out, or the leaders figuring out what's actually going on, it's almost too late, right? So it's like, maybe she had already hurt somebody, or maybe she had already run away by that point.
That would have been cool too. Cut off his arm. And
yeah.
In a sparring thing where she used her anger or hate, and because that's the one thing that they didn't do. Somebody always loses a limb in Star Wars. Or multiple limbs. That was always in the original trilogy.
It's a rite of passage.
It was a rite of passage. It would have been so appropriate if maybe during a training session that she cut off his right arm. That would have been awesome. That would have made him start, being jealous or turning, or and that would have set off a whole nother, catalyst to create another story arc, and that would have made it more interesting, because they had so much potential to do so much with these things, and they just totally missed the mark on all of it.
There's a million ways they could have went, and you guys are only scratching the surface.
They could have had so much better, everything, but I just blame, like I said, I blame Iger, I blame Kathleen Kennedy, and I blame the fact that they rushed everything. If they would have done everything and wrote everything in the beginning with just, even if it was a group of writers or two writers, and regardless of whoever directed it, they would have had a consistent, cohesive story. They would have had some characterization. They would have had some good twists and turns. They would have had some good things. They would have thought out all three movies to be cohesive. It would have made more sense. The prequels weren't, that.
And they would have sold a lot of. They would have sold a lot of toys. It would have sold a lot of books. It would have sold a lot of merchandise. All they had to do was get people to fall in love with it, and what they wanted to do was to get new people to fall in love with it, which is fine. But what they didn't understand was if you made a truly incredible, top tier product, you will attract a lot of people. You will attract the fans who are already there for waiting for 40 years, and you will attract a level of new people too. And you shouldn't be so concerned with who are the new people you are attracting. Well, we want women. Well, why do you care where the money comes from?
Leia brought people into the Star Wars universe. They
always had these Leia is just the best example of a strong character. Yeah. Like I said before, I think she was the strongest out of the three main characters. If these people were real Star Wars fans, like they claim to be, they would know the same stuff that we're saying in, out, forwards, and backwards. They're not exactly the type of expert that we had hoped for, that we were thinking was going to be in charge. We thought that, they'll put Lucasfilm in charge of people that not only love these movies, but know an incredible amount, and maybe have an insight and a detail, and maybe even previously worked on the movies. Who knows? Right? They had Kasdan to write episode 7 or Solo. Maybe his son helped write Solo, and he wrote episode 7 along with JJ.
Yeah.
But more of that, more of just people who love it and people who understand it, and not necessarily unfortunately the people that they selected didn't seem to
know what they're doing or even
Well,
care.
no, maybe they were like, I guess you could say excellent filmmakers. Like JJ had made some excellent films, but it was maybe it's the timing issue. They only gave him 2 years. He said he needed more time to craft a believable, clever story. I buy that. I think that that's true. You had to give him a little more time. I would have said, knowing the potential that I think all of us know as far as a dollar amount that these films had from the start, from 2014 when the hype was at 100% maximum, revving at 8,000 RPM was the hype. What you could have done then is the only thing taking another 8 months or 9 or 12 months would have done was made more hype.
I know.
That's all
Every
that would
3
have done.
years. Remember how hyped it was waiting for
It was that hype for the prequels was electric. That was electric back then. I remember I would use that electricity in the air to get projects done. I would have my friends over in the 2 months leading up. When I knew what was the second movie called? Attack of the Clones. When I knew Attack of the Clones was coming out, I mean, for the 2 months leading up to that date, whatever it was, like May, I think it was like around birthday I was having in May, that it was electric. The air was electric. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was excited. And we saw that happening in 2014 before the new films came out. But as things went along, it didn't retain that type of excitement because people saw what was really happening. People started, the true believers who were already skeptical at The Force Awakens in the first place didn't give it much of a look because of what it turned out to be. Then there was a whole slew of people, I would say 80% of people thought it was fantastic, and some of those people were going to drop off in subsequent years, right?
Right.
And now it's probably at a point where if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say 30, 40, 50% of Star Wars fans probably like The Force Awakens, and then it probably drops for the subsequent prequel movies or sequel movies, I would say. But
I just thought it was odd that they got Rian Johnson to do the second movie, and then they were Kathleen Kennedy was promising him.
I was excited at that time. And to be honest with you, I was excited with Kathleen Kennedy too, because when I was, I had watched those interviews of her. Now we know that they were lies, but at the time sounded very genuine. And she was promising everything for these characters and promising respect for these characters, which I don't think that the characters received.
They didn't even respect the original characters. I mean, if they would have gave them more respect and a little bit more, time, I mean, it could have been mind-blowing. But the fact of the matter was they rushed everything. They made poor decisions, and they didn't, have any kind of vision. And that's the thing with Lucas. People criticize the prequels, but at least there was one true vision from beginning to end. Whether you like Jar Jar, whether you like this, that, or the other thing. I mean, Phantom Menace had Darth Maul, one of the best characters. I mean, he was amazing. Had some of the best scores by John Williams. It had some even with all the special effects.
The scores were just epic.
It still was epic. I mean, and then
as far as like these like new sequel movies, I want to kind of wrap it up because I kind of only want to go about 2 hours and we're like well beyond that. But I want to ask you, since we keep talking about the sequel stuff, what is your one lightsaber thing? It could be a lightsaber, but what's your lightsaber thing that came out of the sequel trilogy? Gabe, I want to start with you because I haven't heard you say anything in a while. Like, what's your favorite lightsaber thing that occurred? So it could be a duel, or it could be like a lightsaber that was revealed, or just anything lightsaber related. What's your favorite thing that came out of the sequel trilogy in regards to lightsabers?
In regards to lightsabers, I was glad to see Leia's saber. I thought that was cool.
I had to wait a while for that. That was episode 9 before we saw it, right?
Yeah. It was cool to see Rey at the end light up that yellow saber. Like, oh, it's a new color. We've never seen that on screen before, and all that mess. But I thought Leia's saber was awesome. I really like Leia's saber, and my wife fell in love with
Sharp
that.
hill.
She wants that one. She wants that one.
Definitely a sharp hilt.
Yeah, it looks really
Corbanth has that, isn't it? Isn't it Corbanth that made
Corbanth
that, or is
created
it?
one. They already sold out of their kits and their
yeah.
you know, commissions, but you know, I really like Kylo Ren's. I thought that was a you know, really cool because it's, you know, gave homage back to the old Knights, you know, as far as having the cross guard. That was, you know, to me was the epitome of what they could have done with it. Bringing back, you know, the Graflex, it was okay, but then to do a fixed flex instead of her just making her own saber, I thought it would have been really cool because she was so good with a staff.
You know, we actually talked about that.
Pike.
We
She
talked
should have
about
made a
that.
pike.
It would have been cool to see her as a Jedi building, you know, using the Force to make her own saber. I'm
Right.
glad you brought that up.
Leia,
It
you
would've
said,
been like
or
a scene
Rey?
they deleted from episode 3,
Oh,
you know,
Rey.
where Luke is in the cave. That whole thing they should have showed that. That would have been awesome. And the fact that they didn't do that with Rey, you know, and they didn't show her how she fixed the fixed flex or whatever you want to call it. It would have been cooler just to take the crystal and make it a pike because she was so good with the staff. That would have been.
That's what I like too. I wanted to see that. I wanted to
That's
see the like a saber pike. Yeah. So this is the Corbanth
Yeah.
Jedi Leia saber that Gabe likes. I really like this design too. You know, I
I do
like
too.
any design that has metal grips that are screwed in like that. I love metal.
It's very
Those
elegant.
metal raised grips, and also look at the button. How the button is on this slant. Isn't that
That's
sweet?
awesome. The whole design of that was sweet.
Yeah.
Those were my two favorite sabers. I didn't like Rey's saber at the end. I thought it would have been cooler if she made it.
They didn't show enough of it for me to say whether I liked it or not. I
It
have
was
to
just-
like
it
pull
was
up a
It looked
picture.
to me
Yeah,
like
it was the end piece
it
for
looked to me
staff.
like it was part of her staff. It was the top
was.
part.
Yeah.
Of her,
It was.
Her
It was
It almost
staff,
looked like
she got
a
it.
like a spray painted black Darth Maul saber, right? Wasn't that kind of what it would
Yeah.
look like?
You guys notice that?
It was huge.
You guys notice that when she turns it on, the spikes come up, open, the
Yep.
top opens up, and then
Oh,
it's
no.
It spins.
decent.
It spins.
Oh, that's cool.
They pop open.
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
pretty
fun, too,
sweet.
The way
It was really Sithy.
ignited. It was very
Ooh,
cool.
okay.
The way ignited, but the fact that it was still been cooler if she made a pike.
Right, I think so too. I think so too. And I think that would have been nice, like Gabe said, that they introduced this new color, which I think is a thumbs up for them to say, look, we canonized the yellow color, or whatever you said it was called, white gold or whatever. But also that's cool that they had this little additional lightsaber part that moves, that you say
Yeah.
moves, because like
That
people
was
like
cool.
my friend Jedi Arms Dealer could probably make something like that happen, you know, where
Yeah.
he's really good at like making things
Like a mechanized
change
type
in
of
the
thing
hilt
on it.
and move. Yeah, to be mechanized inside the hilt, even though things like the mechanics would have to be very small.
Right. But it would still be
So
cool.
Harris, what about you as
would
far as the
prefer
new
more-
movies?
the one in the movie was a little bit more rose gold. The Corbanth one looks like brownish.
Mm.
So
I think it's just the coloring.
Or
the photo,
It seems to
'cause
me more. Yeah, it's just the coloring in the photo.
It's
I
just the
think.
lighting that they have. It is rose gold. There it is.
And look at
I'll
the
be
size.
honest
That's
with
very
you,
petite.
Yeah, it
That's
is
Well,
a nice
tiny.
size.
That's 'cause it was,
To answer
you know-
your question, Ed, I don't know. I didn't really. I mean, other than that Leia hilt, I mean, that's all that really impressed me. I wasn't really impressed. I'll be honest with you. I've been waiting since the first movie in this trilogy for that blade to pop out of that staff. Like I kind of spent. I think I've mentioned that to you guys before.
Yeah.
I spent that whole first movie waiting for a saber to pop out of that staff, and it never happened for me.
Yep.
So that kind of always bugged me, and then it just to do it at the end of the third movie was like, oh, all right, I finally got to see what I thought I was going to see 2 movies ago and 6 years
Yeah.
ago, you know.
Yeah.
So I really didn't get anything special out of it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. Maybe even have I don't know. I mean, we saw Kylo throw his hilt in the ocean. So I don't know. Maybe something else new would have been nice, or maybe if we got into some of the canon of the what do you call it? The Knights of Ren. Maybe we could have seen some of their sabers. That's what I would
Yeah,
have
or
liked
like
to have seen,
in the book they alluded to, like they had this book which took place before it's supposed to be like 25 years before episode 7, but it's
Okay.
like 5 years after episode 6, right?
Right.
And it's like someone finds Darth Vader's lightsaber, and they kind of allude to the fact that it's possibly Darth Vader's lightsaber from when Luke burned his body, but I'm not sure it's 100% verified. But one of these this group kind of takes the saber away, and we're at the time that this book came out, which was like post episode 7. People were led to believe that one of the Knights of Ren may possibly have this red lightsaber, whether it be Darth Vader's or not. They will, we'll see something in episode 8 or something.
Remember
will be
the crystal
revealed.
was hanging in his little shack that he lived in.
Yeah.
We saw that red crystal hanging there for that split second.
Mm.
They never elaborated on anything like that. I would have liked to have seen more on that.
I would have liked to see just all the Knights of Ren have all their different, not even lightsabers per se, but like force weapons like axes and maybe like
Well, they had those Praetorian guards had some interesting weapon tools. I thought. Their fight, although on first glance looked fantastic, on second, third, fourth rewatch, you could tell off some YouTube videos ended up being quite goofy if you paid attention, I guess.
Right.
But it was flashy and crisp, and it looked glitzy. So everybody kind of in the theater was like, "Yay!" But then they didn't utilize the full. What was that movie? 2018 or 2017 made? They didn't utilize 2017. You know what I mean? They didn't.
Right.
Nothing about that fight scene said like, "Hey, this is 20 years after The Matrix." See?
Right.
Like no, like The Matrix killed that. You know what I mean? Like nothing about that was like, look, like we're because normally a Star Wars movie would break new technological ground in the way that the movie was filmed.
Imagine some of the fight
or
scenes,
whatever.
like imagine Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon scenes with lightsabers.
This is what I'm talking about, and it makes sense because the Crouching Tiger, they don't have force powers, so you're just supposed to suspend your disbelief. In this, we could have been like, yeah, they're floating because they have the force,
Exactly.
and it makes
they
sense.
Could have been fighting in the air, and they could have been like, fighting like Crouching Tiger with lightsabers. That would have been cool.
That's what I thought we were going to see when we got, like I've said many times before, when we saw that those Raid actors, Raid and Raid 2, were a part of The Force Awakens. I thought we were going to see some epic martial arts, and I thought that's why you would hire the Raid actors, because they are experts in martial arts, plus weapons, and we are going to see something absolutely epic. Instead, we see computer-generated Rathtars just attacking and eating the Raid 1 and Raid 2 actors, and it didn't make any sense, because how can you do karate or martial arts against a Rathtar? And we never even saw them try. They just like ran away or whatever. What a wasted opportunity the entire sequel trilogy was. And we did get some lightsaber gems in the in Leia's hilt and stuff like that, but vastly underused stuff.
And just to put a final point on The Matrix, they are doing a Matrix 4 with Keanu Reeves and with Carrie, I forget her name.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah. So they are doing a fourth installment of that with the Wachowski sisters, and I don't know why or how they're going to do it, but they are. There's supposedly talks of them, but just the fact that if you could have done what they did in The Matrix and use that technology and implement it into the Star Wars sequels, that would have been amazing.
But when I mentioned The Matrix, what I just mean is like how when you went into The Matrix in 1999 and The Matrix blew your mind because it was fresh and new, but still holds up in a sense. Now some of those scenes in the second movie, Reloaded, when he's fighting like a lot of Mr. Smiths, and some of it looks a little goofy because it's computer animated, and it looks a little goofy because it's 20 years later, I know. But just the way that it was at the time, where it was very groundbreaking, that's the type of thing that I thought we were going to see, which is something that was just like broke new ground here as far as maybe a fight scene. And like I said, when I heard about the raid actors, I thought Matrix just like you did. I was like, okay, they're gonna take the Matrix to a new level. They're gonna have, forget kung fu. They're gonna have next level kung fu. They're gonna have jujitsu. They're gonna do.
They could have had
flips
laser whips. They could have had laser axes. They could have had laser morning stars. Like kung fu movie weapons. That would have been cool as hell. Like, seeing them with like the double bladed like like tunfa or like double bladed like some kind of like laser weapons. Like that would have been the bomb. But they just it's just a shame. It really is. I'll always have the original trilogy, and to me that is like what Star Wars is at the essence and always will be for me. I love I'm still a Star Wars fan no matter what, but it's just the fact that it's just disappointing.
We'll just be like Star Wars fans in waiting right now
right.
while we wait to see what they do.
And you know what? And I do have hope for the New Republic, because put it this way, if Favreau and Filoni directed and wrote the sequels, I mean, just think about how awesome that would have been. I mean, just what they did with The Mandalorian. Imagine if they had full range of what they could have done with, the sequels, and what they can still do.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah,
We'll
I know.
see.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Episode 10 is supposed to be, they're trying to get Keanu, they're trying to get A-listers, they're trying to bring in more, a lot more Jedi and Sith, and they're supposed to, it's supposed to be this big epic thing where they're supposed to, kind of like, I guess, pay homage to the real fans and really bring back what Star Wars was about, was, lightsabers, Jedi, and Sith. I mean, that's to the essence
the Force.
of what
We got to get back to the mysteries of the Force and like staying true to training, and how training is 100% necessary when you are dealing with an unknown Force, and you are dealing with
like dark side and
Terrace Kasai martial arts and stuff like that. You don't just automatically receive this stuff. I don't care whose daughter you are or whatever. But I want to end this show, and we can do this again, you guys. This was a lot of fun. Thank you all for coming in. Harris, thanks for making this happen. I thought you were going to be the last one in, and Harris was the first one in, you guys. Says Harris got his technological stuff together immediately.
All I did is click the link.
He clicked the link and he was in. So that was awesome. Gabe, thanks for coming in. Chinese Bill, you are awesome. Thank you.
I love you guys.
I love all you guys. My Saber family. Thank you, Saber family, for joining in the chat. That was a lot of fun to get your input on everything. Come back. We're going to do another Saber talk real soon. And, with everybody kind of stuck at home, more opportunities for more Saber talks and more videos. Anybody that wants to do a Saber talk on their own, feel free to host a Saber talk. I would love to log in one time and see that somebody did a Saber talk. I think that would be cool. Believe me, you don't need my permission or anything. Anybody can talk Sabers. You guys can do a Saber talk. Please go and check out civilized-sabers.com. Me and Gabe have been doing some work to the site and adding some new stuff. And check out Civilized Sabers on Instagram. Once we can all get back together in person, we'll be continually working on new lightsabers and also the new blade systems, such as the tri-blade, which is a triple strip NeoPixel that we've been creating lately and playing with. If Mark is still here, Mark was one of the customers getting the tri-blade. Working on his right now, and I'm all alone over here doing this stuff, but hopefully soon you guys will be able to come back over, and then Bill will have to meet up as well.
Wait. I'll
have to do our plan.
Specialized edition. We can watch it, whip out the lightsabers, eat some pizza, and actually get to do some, real, fellowshipping and sabering and geeking out. So I mean,
that's my favorite thing to do.
I just look forward to if we do this.
You mentioned the magic word pizza.
Well, like I said, I think my stomach's half Italian, so
you're kind of dressed like an Italian right now a little bit.
Just remember, I'm Chinese Bill, but I'm not Chinese. So I'll leave you with that, and then with you. Love you
All
guys.
right, thanks a lot, guys, and the Force will be with you
You guys all
all.
stay cool and healthy.
All right. God bless.
Thanks,
Sabers
Harris.
up.
You too. Be
Sabers
safe
up.
at work.
Bring 'em up. Look.
Hold on.
We're all
Here's the
in
saber, Harris.
Jedi
When you
booty.
build
Hang on.
Sabers up.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
everybody.
May the Force be with you
Enjoy.
all. Have a great
Enjoy
night.
your
God bless.
lightsabers,
Be
everybody.
safe. Fight
Be
off the
safe out there.
COVID-19 with sabers.
Later.
Yeah.